everybody, and welcome to the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. We have the first round of the tournament proper to bring to you today, and I could not be more excited. My name is Aladar, and joining me in the commentary box today will be Badgerman. But before we get into that and into the details of the event, we've got a very special guest here for an interview before we really get into things. So say hello to Danny Berezne.
Hi, everyone.
So, Danny, first question then. It's going to be a generic one here, but you got Belgium up first. Is that a track you're looking forward to?
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite track in the F1 race calendar. Not only because I am usually faster on there, but it offers some very special corners and very great fight until the last lap. So I'm looking forward to racing with the guys who I have raced very long ago with.
Indeed, yeah. Belgium always going to be a driver favorite track. So much fun around that particular circuit. Yourself and Zabukoni, of course, making up Team Hungary in all three races today. Looking at the other teams, though, are there any names that jump out at you? Any teams that you're particularly worried about going forward?
I think actually the special team with Josh and Barry Borvomont will be extremely strong. They kind of represent an old country, if I'm well informed. I don't know how you call this in English. But obviously Netherlands with the F1 esports champion and my former teammate Jarno Peer will put some amazing performance, I'm sure. And basically everyone, as this is as strong as a field as esports. So the gaps will be very, very small. And it all comes down to who makes the least amount of mistakes.
Yeah, you said it. Absolutely. Incredibly tight field and as good as esports, as you mentioned. I'm so looking forward to this. And yeah, let's just get a little prediction from you as well, shall we? For the first race of the day, where are you qualifying and where are you finishing the race?
I don't like to predict this stuff because I kind of want to be realistic but optimistic at the same time. But I'm looking forward to a podium finish both in the qualifying and in the race itself, of course, because you get points when you see the checkered flag.
All right, thank you very much. And then one final question. Is there anything you'd like to say to all your fans in your native language real quick?
Jó szurkolást kívánok nektek. I just wish them good cheering.
All right, thank you very, very much for joining us today, Danny, and good luck in the races.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now I'll let Badgerman do a little bit of talking. I introduced him earlier on, and now he is here. So welcome, Badgerman, as well to the commentary box. You will be joining me for all of the races here today as my co-commentator.
Yes, indeed, and we have a very, very interesting event in front of us. And let's quickly look back because we had two qualifiers. Let's see how the teams got here. Of course, we have 7 teams that were invited, but in the 2 qualifying events that we had Spain tied on points with Finland on 75, qualifying because they won 2 of the 3 races and punching the ticket here for the event. However, you might have noticed on social media that Team Finland is also here. The way the format worked was that P1 definitely qualifies. P2 qualifies only one of the 2 teams from the 2 events based on the points they score. And Finland just outscored the second Hungarian team. This is not the Hungarian team that's participating tonight. That was a second Hungarian team that just missed out on qualification by 4 points compared to Finland. Turkey dominated that second qualifying event, and as such, they are through and are here as well. The other 7 teams, as mentioned, have been invited by the organizers.
Indeed, and Turkey very much winning it out in that last chance qualifier, that second qualifier, but really coming up big on that occasion. So Çanakkale, Uluslararası Yıldırım, I'm excited to see what they can do. They're going to be underdogs in such a strong field, but I know Team Turkey has some very strong support as well. And now why don't we move on to take a look at the format for the event, both for today and for the next event on next Sunday as well. Today's event, as you can see, we've got 3 races to bring you, and round 1 will be at Belgium, Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, and that will have a short qualifying session, so an 18-minute qualifying session followed by a 25% race. Then the top 15 finishers in that race will be reversed, and they will make up the front 15 of the grid in our second race of the day at Zandvoort. where we'll have another 25% race. And then finally, the last race of the day, back to short qualifying again for Silverstone, and another 25%er to round things off.
Yeah, and of course, with this being the start of this Nations Cup event, we have all 10 teams starting off at exactly 0 points. But here you can see the list of entries: Spain, Netherlands, France, Italy, Hungary, Finland, Poland, Europe, Turkey, and even a rest of the world team that Danny Berezny was alluding to earlier with Barry Burmand and Josh Idawu. Let's actually get into all the driver lineups here. We have at first Team Spain. Team Spain consists of Bernardo, also known as Nadi, Perez, Alvaro Carreton, Danny Moreno, and Nicolas Mateo.
Yeah, and then next we have Team Netherlands with Floris Wires and Jarno Opmeer, as well as Tijmen Schutter and Matthijs van Erven. Following them, we got Team France as well: Jean-Christophe Letexier, Fabrizio Donoso, Nicolas Longuet, also known as Nicolas Longuet for the Anglophones amongst us, and Antoine de Zaluski.
Yeah, moving on to Team Italy, we have Daniele Haddad, Domenico Lovece, Dario Iamulo, and Alessio Di Capua.
And then the fan favourites for many of you, I'm sure, we have Team Hungary with Danny Berezny, who we just spoke to, and Bence Szabo-Konyi. He'll be alongside him for all 3 races today. But they also have Norbert Jakab and Istvan Puki in reserve.
Yeah, moving on to our second sheet and the 5 remaining teams, obviously, last but not least, if you will. Starting off with Team Finland here: Joni Tormela, Tino Naukarinen, Atte Kaupinen, and Juha Nieminen.
Yeah, and then on to Team Poland with Patrick Kruti, Tomasz Paradzic, Piotr Strahulec, and Kamil Komoni.
Moving on to Team Europe, very Spanish dominated. I think it's actually four more Spanish drivers. So maybe sort of second team for any Spanish fans to root for here, with Pablo Joglar, Ruben Vallejo, Jorge Alberola, and Samuel Valentin.
Of course, that Team Europe team was the Team Spain that progressed through the qualifying rounds. And then next we have Team Turkey, another team to get through on those qualifiers. Çanakkale and Ulas Özildirim, the 2 drivers who have been fielded for them thus far. But they also have Alp Özkaya and Salih Eren Kuroglu in reserve as well.
And of course, finally, the rest of the world team. We already mentioned Barry Boromand and Josh Idawu, but of course they have 2 more drivers as well, in Jake Benham and Connor Muir. Don't count those 2 out either. And let's actually get into the lineups for the first race. We have Belgium coming up. So let's actually look which of these drivers are actually participating as we start off with Team Netherlands, with the reigning, defending F1 Esports Drivers Champion, Jarno Opmeer, and alongside him it will be Tijmen Schutter.
Yes, indeed. That will be the team for the Netherlands. Then for France, we are going to have Fabrizio Donoso alongside Nicolas Longuet.
Yeah, moving on to Poland, we have Tomasz Paradzic and Piotr Stachulec.
Yeah, that will be followed then by Team... Sorry, you're going to have to take this one for a moment. Just 1 second.
Okay, I'll just continue. It will be Team Rest of the World with Barry Boromand and Josh Idawu in the McLaren cars. Then we will have... I forgot to add that. There we go. That's a great start to the stream. Apologies, everyone. Unfortunately, there was some issue with my technology here. There we go. We have them now. Daniele Haddad and Alessio Di Capua. Then we have Team EU. Jorge Alberola and Ruben Vallejo in the Ferrari. For Finland, we have Tino Naukarinen and Atte Kaupinen stepping into the AlphaTauris. Team Hungary. Danny Berezny and Bence Szabo-Konyi in the Alfa Romeo. Turkey with Çanakkale and Ulas Özildirim, and of course Spain with Alvaro Carreton and Danny Moreno.
Absolutely. Very, very strong lineups then for every team here, to be honest. Every team has a very good chance of at least some serious points. But just take a moment here to think about which teams we're expecting to be fighting at the very front. You can never count out Netherlands, of course, with Jarno Opmeer in tow. How can you count out the F1 Esports Pro Series reigning champion? Team World, we heard Danny Berejne mentioning them, Josh Adowu and Barry Burroman. Burroman, in particular, holds the time trial record at every one of the tracks we are going to today. So he is going to be forced to be reckoned with for sure. And then Team Hungary, of course, Danny Berejne and Bent Szabó-Könnyű. Szabó-Könnyű, someone who's been on the fringes of F1 Esports Pro Series for a while, Challenger Series driver, and Danny Berejne, of course, been right up there at the very top level of competition. So, yeah, plenty of very, very strong teams. Another one that stands out to me, Team France, Fabrizio Donoso, who's a bit of a F1 Esports veteran alongside Nicolas Longuet, who's a real up-and-comer at the moment. So, yeah, those are some of the teams I'm going to be watching out for. But to be honest, I'm going to be watching out for every single team we have here today.
Yeah, certainly. I think this is a very much a star-studded lineup, and it's very, very difficult to shine through here when you have just so many incredibly fast drivers. I think looking at the game right now, I think we're waiting for 2 more drivers. I don't know who is making us wait here a little bit as we are, waiting for the lobby to start. I'm trying to find actually which team is missing. But I can't actually tell.
It's half of Team France is currently missing, and then there's one driver from one of the other teams who is also missing. But never mind that for now. It's the one, an Italian and a Frenchman that we are currently missing, so we'll get those into the lobby as soon as we can and then be able to get underway. But meanwhile, I'm just going to take a look at chat, seeing there's a lot of Team Hungary, a lot of hashtag Team Hungary coming through in the chat, seeing some support for Netherlands, for Turkey, for rest of the world as well. But make sure you let us know who you are rooting for. Of course, a lot of you are already letting us know. A lot of Team Hungary. So let's see if any of the other nations can get some love in chat as well.
I see a bit of Netherlands and Poland there coming through. But yeah, lots and lots of Team Hungary. And not really surprised considering that we are hosting this event here on the ORL channel together with FuturEsports, one of the biggest esports organizations, if you want to call them that, in Hungary, and a proud partner of ORL.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great pleasure for us as well to be able to bring you the commentary, bring you the show for this event, because this is a really, really special event, in the world of F1 Esports, outside of, F1 official F1 Esports, the Pro Series, the Challenger Series. The F1 Nations Cup is the next biggest thing. And this is something, we have a big prize pool for the drivers available. We have the highest level of competition and a different format to what you usually see. And all this put together is just such an attractive prospect.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a very different format to anything we've seen otherwise, anything we've seen before. This isn't about the best driver. This isn't about who is the one fastest. This is about teamwork, and expect something in qualifying that is very unusual at this level of competition. The teams, the drivers, are allowed to give each other slipstreams. So we are going to see a little bit there. That's very much different to F1 Esports, where the drivers are not allowed to do that in any way, shape, or form. Here, however, we want the drivers to work together, and as such, we will see some slipstream, we will see some team plays here, because it is, at the end of the day, all about the teams.
Absolutely, yeah. All about the teams, no drivers championship. And speaking of the drivers, I think all of them are now into the lobby, so we should be getting underway in just a few moments' time to get to Spa-Francorchamps for Belgium and the short qualifying session that we will be bringing you. But why don't we now get into a little bit of predictions of our own? I asked Danny for some predictions earlier. He didn't really want to do them, but he humored me nevertheless. But who do you think is going to be our top 3?
Oh, that's very difficult with that lineup, but I gotta say, you can't discard Jarno Opmeer and Danny Berejne. I think those are 2 of the drivers that will feature on the podium in some capacity. I can't tell you the order, do not press me on that, but I'm pretty sure they will feature on the podium. And then the third, it's between Danny Moreno and Nicolas Longuet for me. But if I had, if you pressed me on, I would say Danny Moreno.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if we're talking about specific qualifying, it's hard to rule out Barry Boroman, the Iranian driving for the rest of the world team. As I mentioned, has the time trial record at every single track on what is qualifying other than just a glorified time trial. And you've also got the likes of Alessio Di Caprio, who's a really interesting driver. Pretty dominant, to be honest, in the PC side of the F1 Challenger series of F1 Esports recently. Took the championship in that in, pretty dominant fashion, to be honest. And in ORL itself as well, we've seen excellent qualifying performances. His qualifying pace has been up there with Jarno Opmeer at more circuits than not. It's the races where he tends to fall away, he tends to have incidents. But if he can keep his nose clean, he is a demon quick driver.
Yeah, certainly. He is one to watch out for as well. That much is very much certain. It's all going to come down to the slightest of margins for most of these drivers, as I think the drivers have readied up now. So we should be getting underway with the first qualifying any moment now.
Now, finally loading in to this session. And apologies for the slight delay, everybody. 7 minutes behind schedule, but we are just about to get into the thick of the action here. And what a circuit to do it at as well. Belgium, Spa, it's a beautiful track. It's always one where you can be worried about a little bit of rain, a little bit of weather coming through here and there as well. But I'd love to see a full dry experience at Spa for our first one of the day, to get a really clear read of where we're expecting everyone to be, what the pecking order is going to be going forwards.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, this is a fantastic track, longest track on the calendar. And interesting noise you made there.
Yeah, I made that because as soon as I talked about how I'd love to see a dry race, I'm seeing some very dark skies right now in the Ardennes forest where we are for this race. It's not raining yet, but it is very, very overcast indeed.
Yeah, that could certainly change things up a little bit in terms of qualifying strategy. It also obviously depends on what we're going to see in terms of whether at the start of the race we might have a slightly dark but still dry qualifying, and then it could start pouring down as soon as we get to the race. So there's a lot that can happen here. As we see the first one out on track is actually Caner Kinci, the Turkish driver here. He's going to set the first lap, and his teammate Ulaşos Yildirim also out on a lap very early here. So the Turks, no time to spare. They are raring to go.
Yeah, and I tell you what, almost the whole field is already out on an outlap here, and that suggests to me that rain is coming at some point in this qualifying session, because usually you'd see some drivers just waiting in the pits longer to go out at the alternate times to ensure they get a clear track. We are still seeing a few drivers still in the pits, but it is only Danny Berezne of Team Hungary, Barry Boroman of the rest of the world, and Jarno Opmeer of Team Netherlands. And to be honest, those are three drivers I expect to be challenging for pole here today. So it's a big statement for those three to stay in the pits while literally everyone else in the field is on an outlap right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm very surprised to see that actually 17 cars out on track this early, when usually what we were expecting were some team plays here, but that might go all out of the window with these cars, as Danny Berezne is making his way out of the pit lane. But Barry Boroman and Jarno Opmeer still waiting. Never mind, Barry Boroman also out. So 19 of the 20 cars out on track. And I think with Berezne and Boroman, it might be a timed thing where they want to give some slipstream, so they still want to pull off the team play here with their respective teammates, Sabukonyi and Aidawu, as now everyone is out on track, and Caner Kinci, the first one to start a lap. So let's have him take us around the Ardennes roller coaster.
Absolutely, and this is the most roller coaster part of it all, up through Radion on the exit of Eau Rouge. Easy flat in the cars, of course, but still a thrilling experience for the drivers, you'd have to imagine. And now, just a long wait before we get to Les Camps at the end of the Kemmel Straight, braking all over the curb there, cutting a little bit on the inside and cutting for the second part of the chicane as well. That is exactly how you want to do it. Same through the third, same on the exit, all over the edges of the road, but not picking up any invalidations. That looked like some very good lines through the opening sector for Caner Kinci. Now we are well into Sector 2. No Name running a little bit wide on the exit, but gathers up that Haas nicely. And the Turkish driver is looking pretty good so far into Puon, down into 7th. Nice and committed through the triple left-hander. You've got to be so brave just to throw the car in there and hope that the tyres stick to the surface of the road. Now into the S section at the back of the circuit, about to enter Stavolo here. Always a tricky corner and one that invites you to invalidate on the exit, but Chanakinchi will have none of that. Through curveball Frere, now flat out once again until we get to the bus stop. We got Blanchimont between then and now, but that's just about picking your line. You can just keep the throttle pinned down, and you might get a little bit of a slipstream here. A very distant one, perhaps, from the Mercedes of Jarno Opmeer up ahead, but I don't think it's going to hinder or help him too much as Chanakinchi enters the bus stop and rounds the final corner up towards the line for the first lap of the Nations Cup, and he goes on to a 140.750.
Yeah, so far a good lap, not a great lap. We expect the drivers to end up in the low 1 minute 40s, maybe even the high 139s, as a 139.8 is the current time trial world record by Barry Boroman, one of the competitors here. But look at that, the time's already dropping down to Capua now in P1, 1 minute 40.4, and it's just the start of the session. We still have 13.5 minutes, and with track evolution being a massive factor, I think there's a huge chance that we will ultimately see some kind of change. And interestingly enough, we see here Di Capua and Poradzic with the exact same time.
Yeah, exactly. That 140.424. I'm just quickly seeing in chat that apparently the game sound is a little low, so I'm not sure if there's anything we can do about that or not, but hopefully we'll be able to sort that out for you guys. Dani Berezhny is currently on a lap as well, the Hungarian, entering the final section right now. Into the bus stop he goes in the Alfa Romeo. Let's see where he's going to shake into this order as he comes across the line, and he moves to the very top. Of course he does. Dani Berezhny to the top for the time being, a 140.365. There's two drivers who are just about to challenge that. Barry Boroman coming out of the final corner now. Let's see what the Iranian can do. And he goes to the top instead, a 140.266. Now it's up to Jarno Opmeer. He is the next one to try and fight back here. He is now exiting that final corner in the Mercedes. And across the line he comes, and it's not fastest, but it's very, very close indeed. A 140.283 moves him into second.
Yeah, you see here the top three, as you predicted, Boroman, Opmeer, Berezhny. The order, very difficult to predict, obviously, but you got him spot on there. But we still have a total of 7 drivers who haven't set a lap time, and there's some big names in there as well. I mean, all of them are, really, let's be honest. Donoso, Caraton, Moreno, Idavu, Schutte, Haddad, Vallejo. That's the who's who of F1 Esports Pro Series and Challengers. It's ridiculous the amount of quality we have here. And they're just on their outlaps. I think they may have invalidated their first run. And so they are trying to start their second run and get at least some lap on the board. But, I mean, we look at the gaps. The top 13... not even 0.7 of a second between them.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really close stuff between these guys right now. I'm just taking a look at Alvaro Caraton. As you mentioned, a driver who is yet to put in a proper lap time. Must have been an invalidation for the Spaniard. Both of Team Spain in those Williamses. That's the only team that is yet to put a lap time on the board. Several other drivers haven't, but both of the Spaniards are yet to register their lap. So let's see what Alvaro Caraton can do now in this Williams as he winds up for his second attempt at a flying lap here in Belgium. And it'll be braking hard for La Source, the first challenge, one of many around this circuit. Off throttle for a long time in the middle of the corner there, but now just setting himself up perfectly for the run down the hill and then back up it again through Eau Rouge and then rally on. And it looks so beautiful on board with an F1 car.
Yeah, not just on board. I mean, this is one of the most iconic corners in F1 history, and for very good reason. The ascension up the hill is something else. It's a remarkable piece of circuit design, really, as Caraton now heading through the middle sector here. This downhill right-hander of Brissell, really, really tricky to get it right. It falls away, and that makes it so much more difficult off camber now towards Pujon. Another one of those iconic corners around this wonderful, wonderful circuit. He takes it nicely there. I think he left a little bit on the table there by not maxing out the track limits perfectly, but we're talking about hundredths of a second here. This is as close as it will get to a fantastic run by all of these drivers through Stavelo, and now the curb Paul Frere, and now just one more proper braking zone. That will be the bus stop. Blanchimont still coming up, but in those cars, that is flat out.
He's on target right now to be up there with Buraman, with Otmir, with Berezne. Somewhere in second or third is where this lap looks like it's going. Oh, bit of a mistake maybe into the bus stop. A little bit deep on the brakes. That might have cost maybe a 10th there for Caraton. And let's see up towards the line. And indeed, he does go into third, narrowly behind Jarno Otmir there. Less than a 10th of a second between the two of them. But the Spaniard manages to string his lap together and moves up into third. Very respectable from him. Let's see what his teammate Moreno's doing as he's coming up towards the line now. Crosses the line and goes fastest of all. A 1:40.181 from Danny Moreno. And now these lap times are getting seriously fast. For reference, the F1 Esports pole around here was set by Freddie Rasmussen. That was a 1:40.004. We're already within a 10th of that.
Yeah, let's actually check who else is out on a run right now. I think Timon Schutte is coming up to the line here. He's heading through Blanchimont right now. So he's got one more corner to go. And he might be getting a good time in here as well through the bus stop. That looked neat and tidy. Neat and tidy sometimes looks slow, but it isn't. P10 for him. And now we have Josh Idawu as well. Back to back there, two drivers coming across the line. What can Idawu do? Is he going to join Boroman? Not quite. He's 200ths of a second short. And I just want to quickly apologize for that background noise. We have some construction work going on. Apologies for that. Not much I can do about that, but you guys get to hear that. So yeah, once again, big apologies. As we only have one driver left with no lap time. That's Daniele Haddad for Team Italy.
Yeah, and not much between this whole field right now. Less than a second separates first and 19th, with only Daniele Haddad yet to set a lap time. I think there's some drivers who are going to be coming to the end of their laps in a moment's time. Let's see what Alessio Di Capua is able to do, because he is improving on his lap. He's up about a quarter of a second in the first couple of sectors. As someone moved up, that was Chanakinchi going up into 7th there, but Alessio Di Capua is going to relegate him to 8th in just a moment's time when he comes across the line here. Oh, and it's so close to the top for Alessio Di Capua. Can't knock Moreno off that top spot, but he came very, very close to it. Further behind, there's a Ferrari in the final sector. That's going to be Jorge Alberola, but he has invalidated his lap. Nicholas Longe has just managed to go up into third. Atte Kauppinen is going to be coming across the line soon. He's into the final sector of his lap for Team Finland, currently sitting all the way down there in P15 and losing it there. In the final corner, loses it entirely. Thankfully, he didn't go past the pit lane entry, so he can head straight back in. That is a major moment there for the Finnish driver.
Yeah, that's very uncharacteristic generally of this track, and certainly of a driver the caliber of Atte Kauppinen here, to spin basically through the first part of the bus stop. The second part, that's where you want to get on the throttle. That's where you try to floor it as early as possible. So the first part, that is very unusual indeed. But he caught it well, did not end up in the wall, and he can continue. I think his tires, his rear tires, may have been a little overheated at that point already.
Yeah, now let's see what Barry Boromand can do. He initially went to the very top of the order in the first exchanges. Can he regain that top spot? At the moment, it's Danny Berezne who takes that top spot away there for Team Hungary. A 140.126. Barry Boromand across the line, and he can't steal it away, but he comes very, very close indeed. A 140.169. That's four drivers into the 140.1s. Jarno Otmir is coming up towards the line. He joins them in the 140.1s, but he cannot beat Danny Berezne, who is still sitting at the top at the moment. He mentioned that this was his favorite track on the calendar, and he's making good on that promise right now, right up there at the very top of the order. Daniele Haddad, what's he doing in the Racing Point? He is the only one out there on a flying lap right now.
Yeah, he's just coming through the middle sector. He just started the middle sector, actually. And so far, it's looking good. Once again, it might not look the fastest if you're driving very neat and tidy and the car just shows no drama. but it is the fastest. As there he had a little slide and corner entry on Puon, if I saw that correctly, and that might have cost him quite significantly because you have a bit of an acceleration zone here to this right-left fast chicane, and so that can definitely hurt his lap time a little bit through Stavelo. And now the long run. This is one of the two really, really fast sectors on this track. The middle sector a little bit slower, but ultimately, when you have a 7-kilometer track, even if you do have 19 corners as you do around here, 10 to the left and 9 to the right, you're still going to have a very, very quick lap time overall. As the average lap speed in qualifying for these drivers here is 252 kilometers an hour.
Very, very fast laps indeed. Let's see them for Daniele Haddad. It's good. It's up into 7th right now for the Italian. That makes himself and his teammate Di Caprio currently sitting in 5th and 7th. That's one of the higher overall team results thus far in this qualifying session. Team Spain looking good, but Caraton is lagging behind a little bit down there in 11th for now. Rest of the world going to be feeling pretty good about 3rd and 10th. And then there's some drivers at the very top who their teammates aren't necessarily pulling their weight quite so well right now. Let's see what Ulaş Yildirim can do. He is on a flying lap for Team Turkey, currently sitting at the very bottom of the order. Him and Jorge Alberola are just a little bit further away from the rest of the field than they would like to be. Over a 10th between the two of them and Atte Kalpanen, who is the next slowest driver in 18th. And Yildirim invalidates by running wide through Puon.
Yeah, that was very, very close, but just like we saw earlier in the real-life Portimao Portuguese Grand Prix, you run a little bit wide and the stewards are going to be on your case, whether that's in qualifying or in the race. It's the same. It's how maybe F1 esports shapes real-life F1, because I remember a time when they weren't that picky with track limits, but yeah, things evolve, and certainly it makes for the most just system to say these are the track limits, white line. Yeah. If you run a bit too wide, that's your lap not counting. So yeah, Yildirim on his way into the pit lane, and we have 3 drivers out on out laps right now. The 2 Polish drivers who were the first ones to go out for their final run. Danny Berezny, now a couple more joining in. Longe, Idawu, Caraton, Donoso, Sabokonyi, more and more pouring out of the pit lane for their final run. It's going to get busy.
Absolutely it is. And Team Poland are going to be feeling pretty good right now in 8th and 9th. And I want to say a big shout out to Stahulets. Not necessarily a driver I thought was going to be right towards the top end. For those who don't know, Stahulets, also known as Zones. And this is a driver who has come on leaps and bounds in the last couple of years. A young Polish driver who has been finding a lot of improvement and just seems to be getting himself right to the top level at the moment, judging by this qualifying session thus far. Currently just ahead of his teammate Tomek Poradzic, who is going to be the first one out on this final set of flying laps here. But nevertheless, Stahulets and Poradzic are going to be feeling pretty good with 8th and 9th as the time for the time being, as Daniele Haddad has now retired in the pit lane. He's decided he cannot manage an outlap in time. Interestingly, Ulaş Yildirim is just leaving the pits now. He might be able to get around just in time to get there before the checkered flag. We'll wait and see on that one. But now let's see what Poradzic can do as he's just winding up for his final flying lap.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of action now going on. Poradzic starts it off, but I mean, we have 19 drivers. You see, outlap, outlap, outlap. Everyone is there except Daniele Haddad, who has retired already and can only move downwards. One thing to note here, a lot of you watching probably know this, but for anyone who's tuning in for the first time, the drivers that qualify inside the top 10, if it is a dry start to the race, will have to start on the tyre they qualify on, which will be the soft tyre for all of them. P11 onwards are going to have the choice. They can decide, do they want to start on a fresh set of softs? Do they want to start on mediums? Maybe even the hards, most likely not going to happen here, as the mediums will easily take it to the end. But yeah, for the top 10, sometimes it's better to not be in it, to then get the choice of tyre at the start.
Poradzic currently on this flying lap then. It was good through Sector 1. Let's see what it's going to be like through Sector 2 here, as he's just about to come to the end of it on the exit of Stavelo. Oh, and he's up. You know, he's up by about 1/10 of a second right now, and if he continues that form through the final sector, he could be moving right to the top of the order here for Team Poland in the Red Bull. And there's not really that much to think about in this final sector either. You take the right line through Stavolo, that's all okay, all flat and easy. And then into the braking zone. This is where it gets tricky for the bus stop chicane. Going to cut a little bit of the inside of both turns, but not too much on the exit. Don't want to destabilize the car. And across the line for Parajishin, it's to the top. A 140.050. The first one into the 140.0 now Danny Berezhny. He's coming up towards the line in the Alfa Romeo for Team Hungary, and he snatches it back and into the 39s, and it's a 39.8, would you believe it, from Danny Berezhny. That is absolutely incredible. Stahulets is now coming through the final corner, but he has invalidated. It's a shame because it was a fast lap time. Now Nicolas Longuet for Team France in the Renault up towards the line for him. What's it going to be? It's only third for him for now, but it's still a very fast lap time indeed. A few more drivers coming through the final sector. Caritona's invalidated. Let's see then what's Jarno Opmeer going to do right now for Team Mercedes. He's into the final sector of his lap into this bus stop. The final challenge to loom. The final thing standing between this Dutchman and potential pole position here in Spa. Will he take it away? No, he cannot. But he's onto the front row for the time being. Still a few drivers left to complete their laps. Moreno has invalidated. Borroman goes up into third. Now Karinen up into 12th, and it's just Schutter, Vallejo, Alberola, and Özildirim who are yet to set lap times. Özildirim has invalidated. Vallejo is into the final section of his lap. He's going to be the last one to challenge here for Team Europe, and across the line he comes, and he claims 18th only. Team Europe with 18th and 19th, but it is Team Hungary taking pole with Danny Berezhny.
And not just that, let's just quickly compare this lap time from Danny Berezhny to the time trial world record. He is 7 milliseconds short of the time trial world record. This is about as perfect of a lap as you can produce in these conditions with this kind of weight on your shoulders. Danny Berezhny, I mean, I think he feels no pressure. He doesn't even know what pressure is, because to produce such a lap time against this field is incredible.
And to be honest, if you look at the gaps between drivers in qualifying in the likes of F1 esports and so on, almost 900ths of a second between Berezhny and Opmeer for pole. That's actually a relatively big gap, believe it or not, by the standards that you get to when you get to the really fastest guys on F1 2020. So that is really a very, very good qualifying lap indeed from Danny Berezhny. Hats off to him. And he sounded confident going into it. He said he was going for at least a podium in qualifying and in the race. And this is a great way to start it off with pole here at his favorite circuit, Belgium. And he's lining up at the front of the grid, but he does have Jarno Opmeer alongside him, and what a dangerous prospect that is.
Yeah, meanwhile, before we get onto the formation lap, let's just quickly look at the point system for this race and for all three races tonight. We're going to have 25 points for the winner. Then it goes away a little bit from what you are used to from real life F1. 21, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, and then 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So all the way down to top 15. The drivers get points and the teams get points. And if you look at the grid there on the right side, that is going to be the reverse grid for round number 2. We're not going to have a qualifying session for round number 2, or race number 2, really. So P15 of this race will start on pole position for Zandvoort.
And then here we are into the formation lap for our 25% race here in Belgium, our first race of the day, as Danny Berezhny leads them round in that Alfa Romeo. Interesting to look at the tyre choices amongst the field right now. 11th through to 18th have all opted for the medium tyres, whereas Alberola and Özildirim at the very back of the field on that final 10th row of the grid, they have gone for soft tyres instead. And of course, everyone inside the top 10 will be forced to start on their soft tyres. So let's just get a quick idea of what we're looking at right now, because we've got a Hungarian and a Dutchman on the front row, but their teammates are 15th and 16th respectively on the 8th row of the grid. So it's not necessarily the best result for the teams as a whole, even though those two drivers, Berezhny and Opmeer, have done a very, very good job. I think you've got to look at rest of the world for the team that's in the best position right now. Boroman starting third with Josh Idawu down in 8th. That is a very strong starting position for them. The 2 French drivers in 5th and 7th, the 2 Poles in 4th and 11th, and the 2 Italians in 6th and 10th. These are great all-round performances from these teams. No one really letting the side down there for them.
Yeah, and sometimes that is a lot more crucial, especially with this point system that we have here, where you do get points all the way down to P15, but it definitely helps to qualify or to finish a bit higher as the gaps obviously increase further up the order. Getting 2 cars into a sort of top 8, top 5 position definitely pays off here. And I think looking at it, yeah, the Frenchmen, the rest of the world, Team Italy, even Poland, even though Stachulet's down in P11, still pretty good. And Hungary and Netherlands, they might be happy with their quote-unquote number 1 driver on the grid with Danny Berezna and Jan Otmé respectively. But overall, I think it's going to be mixed feelings for them so far. And Sabakonyi and Schütte are going to have to make up some positions here in this 11-lap race.
As the final drivers line up at the back of the grid, everyone is in place. We are ready for the first race of the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup here in Spa. Oh, and there's 3 jump starts, 4 jump starts in the field as we get underway with Danny Berezne leading from pole, and he looks to have comfortably led away from Jarno Opmeer there. He is doing well thus far. That's Longuet up the inside as well, trying to get past Barry Boroman, but Boroman shugs off the challenge and now looks to try and battle with Opmeer himself. Meanwhile, Berezne has absolutely legged it at the front. Look at that gap. He's already starting to pull right now. Porajic is getting close to Longuet as well, but the Frenchman looks to be out-dragging him down the Kemmel straight as Boroman pulls out of the slipstream of Jarno Opmeer. He wants to try and make a move into Les Combes, but he can't pull alongside enough and just settles back down in 3rd for the time being. It is Danny Berezne leading from Opmeer and Boroman, as you were at the very front.
Yeah, meanwhile, absolute drama here for Team Spain. Both drivers with a jump start. Both drivers are going to have to serve a drive-through penalty.
Just 2 people around. Sabakonyi's had an issue at the start, and as Yildirim has gone round as well. Disastrous start for both of those drivers as there's frantic battling going on at the back right now. Alessio Di Caprio also very close behind Josh Idawu, who's starting to fall a little bit away from the front 5 for the rest of world team driving in that bright orange McLaren. Josh Idawu, the Welshman, will want to close back into that team so he can lend as much aid as possible to his teammate Barry Boroman, who's currently running around in 3rd.
Yeah, and Idawu, I think, one of the winners of the start. He started P8, so pretty high up already, certainly inside the top 10. And he still gained 2 positions on lap 1, so he's really making some moves early on.
Yeah, Moreno pretty close behind Donoso, but no one's throwing any particularly dangerous moves into the bus stop on this lap, I don't think. That's Donoso already heading into the pits. Several drivers. I think this is going to be serving the penalties that they got on that opening lap for jump starting. So it's Donoso, Stachulet, and Carreton, who are all into the pits. Moreno stays out. He will serve his drive-through on a next lap.
Yeah, next lap or the lap after, the drivers have 3 laps to serve their drive-through penalty. If at the end of the 3rd lap they still don't serve it, they will be disqualified as soon as they come across the line. So Danny Moreno, he doesn't have to go into the pit lane at the end of this lap, but he certainly will have to at the end of the next.
Yeah, Danny Moreno, poor luck, poor fortune for him in this one. And I wonder what happened there with those jump starts. Of course, when you see other drivers starting around you, sometimes you think that's your go signal. You're looking at the other cars a bit, you see movement in the corner of your eye, and you just go for it. And I think there was a bit of a chain reaction there caused by whichever the first one of those drivers to jump the start was. And a few guys just got caught out there, all sort of in the middle of the pack, so they're all close to each other on the grid. But it didn't affect the guys at the very front. Berezne still leading from Jarno Opmeer 2nd. Opmeer not exactly challenging the rear end of the Alfa Romeo for the time being, but not falling away from him either. Then you have Barry Boroman in 3rd. Nicolas Longuet, who's managed to get a position on Tomek Porajic on the opening lap. He finds himself up in 4th with Porajic down to 5th. And of course, Josh Idawu managed to gain 2 positions at the start at the cost of the likes of Alessio Di Capua, who has fallen down into 7th.
Yeah, and apologies for some glitches here. It is not lap 3. Lap 3 is about to be started right now as Dani Berezna comes across the line. So not much we can do about that. That is the game. Apologies for that. But now everything should be correct and more drivers pitting. And some of these, Vallejo and now Karinen, respectively, have not had a jump start penalty. So that's a proper pit stop for them.
Yeah, some of these guys rolling the dice early on strategy. You can pull off some very early pit stops in 25% races. And Vallejo, Nalkarin, and Stahulets, they're all going to go onto those soft tires. And we'll see how that's going to pay off for them. Right now, looking at the top 6 drivers, Josh Idawu is the only one who's using up a lot of his battery charge right now. His ERS percentage is down at 30, whereas all the cars ahead are at 70 or above. So he's starting to struggle to live with the pace of the very front runners. Similar story just behind him with Alessio Di Capua as well. He's currently on 32%. So this could make a big difference here. We expect to see the top 5 starting to drive away from the 3 cars behind once that battery charge is going to come into play just a little bit more.
And it's quite surprising to me that drivers are struggling with their ERS management this early on, because usually you run a lower downforce setup here around Spa, around Belgium, as it is quite a high-speed track. So a lower downforce setup generally means you can regain more ERS over the course of a lap. So recharging the battery is not that much of an issue here. But at the same time, you don't want to use that much. So I'm very, very surprised to hear that some drivers are down to under 50%. Usually that's not the case, as Tomasz Poradzic is into the pit lane and Can Akinci follows him in. So a Polish driver and a Turkish driver, as well as Jorge Alberola for the European team. They are all pitting a bit early here. I think the soft runners want to go a bit longer, because they want to use that soft tire as long as possible and then switch on to mediums at some point later. But at the same time, the undercut, the famous undercut. Who is going to be the first one to pull the trigger and go on to mediums and risk it, possibly falling into traffic as well?
Yeah, I mean, Tomek Poradzic, what he's done here is he's pulled a gun on the rest of the field and dared them to pit. And we'll see whether they're going to call his bluff or not on that one, because right now, him on those medium tires, the guys that were in and around him, he was running in 5th. Everyone ahead of him is going to be concerned about potentially getting undercut, as Alessio Di Capua, currently running in 6th, has picked up the first 3-second time penalty of the race. Another interesting thing to note is the fact that Jorge Alberola has gone on to a set of hard tires rather than mediums. Not sure that's going to work out too well for the Spaniard going further on into this race, but maybe he knows something the rest of the field doesn't. I think most of the other drivers, though, they're going to be definitely not wanting to get too close to that set of hard tires.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a mistake from him not changing, or maybe the game changed at the last second on him. Something must have gone wrong there, as normally you don't want to touch the hard tire in any 25% race, really. And we see now more drivers come in. I think that was Jano Otme. Indeed, it was Jano Otme and Barry Berman. Nicolas Longe and Daniela Haddad all follow him in. So, yeah, Tomasz Poradzic pitting a lap earlier really caused a chain reaction here, with 4 drivers out of that front group pitting right now.
Yeah, a few more drivers also coming into the pits. Haddad is in there. Danny Moreno is in there as well. Let's see where Poradzic is going to come out relative to the rest of the field. He is entering last source now, and so is Jano Otmir. Jano Otmir is going to be able to get out ahead of him, but Poradzic has been able to undercut at least 2 of them here, with Boromand and Longe falling behind the Polish driver. So Poradzic's decision to go for the undercut has paid off for the time being. Meanwhile, further up, Alessio Di Capua has just been able to get past Josh Idawu for what is currently P2, but those 2 are, of course, yet to pit. Now the question is, what can Dani Berezne do on this in-lap? Surely he has to pit at the end of this one, and he needs to have a really, really good in-lap here to keep Jano Otmir at bay.
Yeah, let's quickly look at the gap he has to Otmir. That's 18.3 seconds. It's going to come down a little bit over the course of this lap for Berezne. Question is, where is it going to end? I think if he stays above 18.0, he has a good chance of keeping the lead but it's going to get really, really close. Don't forget, once you get out of the pit lane, you still have the Camel Straight, a massive DRS straight coming up. So it might be that Berezne comes out of the pits in the lead, or in the net lead of the race. Oh, he stays out a lap longer. Oh,
Danny
that might be what costs him the win here.
It might be what costs him the win, but you don't make that decision lightly. He evidently thinks that that is the right call to make, as everyone else behind him coming into the pit lane, with the exception of Fabrizio Donoso. No, he's also going into the pits for Team France. So Danny Berezne is the only driver in the whole field who is yet to pit right now. A very brave decision from the Hungarian. Is it foolish or not? We're going to have to find out sooner rather than later. Jarno Opmeer is getting closer to him by the sector right now. 17.7 seconds separating our front two drivers. Danny Berezne is going to get undercut by the Dutch driver, but evidently he thinks the freshness at the end of this race will be the difference maker.
I think there may have been something else that went into this decision, because he had about a 2.5 second gap to Di Capua and Idaho behind. So maybe he was looking at that and going, I don't want to be held up in the pit lane. 2.5 seconds is exactly how long a pit stop is. At that point, they're going to come right past him and he is going to get held up. So he was taking maybe the smart choice here to not get held up in the pit lane and instead take that extra lap to make sure that he only loses maybe 1 or 2 positions, but not, let's say, 5.
He's doing a good job on these soft tyres. He's not doing enough to keep Jarno Opmeer at bay, I don't think, but he is still holding him, relatively speaking, in that 17.5 second margin. He's only lost a few tenths of a second over the course of this lap, which, given the differential between the two sets of tyres, that's no mean feat at all for Berezne, who now does pile on into the pits for the Alfa Romeo Hungarian team. And let's see what Jarno Opmeer, Tomek Paradzic, Boromand, what they're going to be able to do in this final sector. Because right now, Berezne is due to file into the middle of this pack.
Yeah, here we see Jarno Opmeer on the main straight. Berezne still in the pit lane. We see the gap coming down, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. Opmeer and Paradzic are past, but Berezne gets the faster run out of the pit lane. There he is. He is good for now. Who will get the DRS?
It's so close right now. They're side by side all the way down to Eau Rouge. Jarno Opmeer manages to get ahead just in time, and there's no DRS right now. Oh, he does have DRS. Berezne's going to get him back.
Berezne, yeah. That was incredibly clever. I think he may have slightly lifted off to let Opmeer by, get the DRS, get him back again. That is incredibly smart from Danny Berezne.
And I cannot tell you how many races I've seen Jarno Opmeer outthink his opponents, outbrain them, pull off something unexpected, maintain his ERS better, some sort of strategy decision that Jarno Opmeer has masterminded. But on this occasion, it is Danny Berezne who has pulled one over on the current F1 esports champion. Danny Berezne leads the way on the freshest tyres in the field, and that's got to be a very, very solid position to be in right now. Jarno Opmeer is in second. Paradzic, having pulled the undercut on Boromand and Longuet, finds himself currently in third. Boromand fourth with Longuet in fifth. Then Alessio Di Capua sitting there in fifth, but does have a 3-second time penalty to contend with. Time in Shooter. He's gone round in the middle sector. Shooter has lost it. He's left the session, and this is a disaster for the Dutch team. They lose the lead, and they lose one of their drivers on the same lap. At least Jarno Opmeer is still in good point scoring contention, but Shooter was due to start very well in the second race to snag a very good spot on that reverse grid, and this is a big shame for the Dutch team.
Yeah, I'm looking at that P15 right now. Stachulec, one of the jump starters right now in P16. Danny Moreno right in front of P15. Moreno would currently start on pole position for the second race at Zandvoort. Stachulec would remain in P16. So that's how important that position is. We are going to have a massive battle over that right there. But we're also going to have a massive battle here with Barry Berman, who's going to go for the move on Tomasz Paradzic. And he's alongside. He's going to have the long way. Oh, I think they touched a little bit. And ultimately, Boromand gets the position around the outside of Les Combes.
Beautiful stuff from Barry Boromand. You hear these drivers talking so much about how difficult it can be to overtake when you're in the middle of a DRS train. Barry Boromand evidently doesn't think so, as he's found his way past Tomasz Paradzic. And what a move that was to get himself back into podium contention. Once again, we have our front three from the grid being the front three in the race. It's Berezhny for Team Hungary, followed by Otmir for the Dutch team, and then Boromand for the rest of the world team driving in that McLaren. Paradzic in fourth with Longe in fifth. Another driver I want to doff my hat to right now is Çanakkale. The Turk has found himself up 6 positions in this race by going from the mediums to the softs, pulling a big undercut on the rest of the field, and he is running in this very lead train right now. Çanakkale, the Turkish team, only just managed to qualify for this event, but he is running around in a very solid 8th place right now.
Yeah, they were unsuccessful in the first qualifying event, but then they dominated the second event, and that brought them right here. And Çanakkale proving exactly why they belong here. What a drive from him so far. Meanwhile, we have 3 laps to go. This is crunch time right now for all the drivers. Can Jarno Opmeer mount any kind of a challenge on Dani Berezhny, or is the Hungarian just driving away with this one?
We'll have to see as they head through the Kemmel Straight. Further back, Strahulets has just been able to snag P15 and thus reverse grid pole away from Jorge Alberola, but Fabrizio Donoso is there as well, and I wouldn't want him behind me. Nicola Longe now going for the outside line on Tomasz Paradzic, who just doesn't have the pace of the rest of the front 5 right now, struggling with ERS, and as a result, the Frenchman has been able to pass the pole and move himself up into P4. Tomasz Paradzic now falling back down to where he was before he managed that mega undercut on the 2 drivers who are now back ahead of him. Alessio Di Capua is the next in line to try and get past the Polish driver in the Red Bull. But let's not forget he has that time penalty to contend with.
Yeah, time penalties will change things a little bit here for Di Capua, Kaupinen, and pretty much everyone significant or directly behind them. That would be for Di Capua, possibly up to 4 positions. Looking at the gaps there right now, for Kaupinen, at this point, he's only going to lose 1 position to Bence Sabakonyi, as now Karinen is already 4.6, 4.7 seconds behind, and Kaupinen has 3 seconds on penalties, so he will only lose 1 place there and 1 point.
Right now at the front, Berezhny looks pretty comfortable to me. He's got 3/4 of a second down to Jarno Opmeer, although he was slightly slower in that final part of the lap, so Opmeer's closed in by about a 10th or so. As Yildirim picks up a time penalty that he's running around on his own down in 19th for Team Turkey. After that incident on the opening lap where he lost his front wing, he has not had a fun race at all. Hopefully for him, he can bounce back better, but this is going to be a bad position on the reverse grid for Team Turkey as well. Let's not forget Donoso and Caraton, 2 very fast drivers, currently sitting outside of that top 15. So they're going to be desperate to try and get a position therein. Now, let's look at Di Capua, who's the next guy to try and challenge Tomasz Paradzic, who once again cannot really contest. And Di Capua is through into 5th, Paradzic down another position into 6th.
Yeah, that quickly was on board there with Tomasz Paradzic, was looking at his steering wheel, and if you were paying attention, if you saw it as well, some of the experts watching right now might have seen it. His ERS battery incredibly low. You mentioned it before, but that yellow bar, I mean, that was somewhere around 15%. He's really, really low right now. Almost no battery energy left, and you can regain some, but that means you're not allowed to use any. And with only a lap and a half to go, it really doesn't matter. Like, you want to use as much energy as possible to ultimately not waste anything, because if you finish the race and you still have 50% in your battery, that's some time you left out on track.
Absolutely. And speaking of battery charges, the front 2, there's a bit of a difference starting to build. Jarno Opmeer has about 10% more left in his battery compared to Dani Berezhny. Dani does have the fresher tires. I think he has the pace right now, but he does have that issue of having less available battery power to deploy through those rear tires and onto the tarmac. Barry Boromand has a similar amount to Dani Berezhny, whereas Longe is almost entirely tapped out in 4th. So it is a battle between the front 3, and Boromand is falling away from Opmeer as well. So it's just Dani Berezhny and Jarno Opmeer in a straight fight right now. Opmeer with one of the final chances to loom. He is deploying all that overtake. He's got the DRS wide open, but he's not close enough to Dani Berezhny. I don't think he gets closer into the braking zone. He jinks out for a moment, but Dani Berezhny is not phased one bit. He holds his line through the first chicane there and into Bruxelles. Now, notoriously tricky corner. Lockups on the front right tire, very common sight, but it's not causing any issue for either of these drivers. You can see how hard they're pushing right now. They're breaking the DRS train behind them. Boromand is over a second behind Jarno Opmeer right now. It's just a straight fight between these two to the checkered flag, but I'm not sure Opmeer's got this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. He's going to have one more chance into the bus stop, but he's not close enough. And in terms of battery, we see the yellow bar, not the big orange one. That's turning green now. No, we're talking about the yellow bar right below. That's almost empty. It should turn orange any moment now. There it is. That's under 10% now. He has no energy left whatsoever. He's not close enough. He's gaining a little bit, actually, but will it be enough? Can he send it from 2.5 tenths back? He looks, but decides not to do it. I think that was the smart choice here. He's getting very up close and personal, but ultimately it will be Danny Berezny taking the victory for Team Hungary here at the first race of the first round of the ORL Nations Cup.
Fantastic race between the pair of them. Fantastic job for Danny Berezny to take the win from pole position. And it wasn't just as easy as that sounds, because there was a whole hard-charging field of very fast drivers behind him. And he pitted later as well. He conceded the undercut, and still he was able to bring home the victory for Team Hungary. Opmeer in second, just 3 tenths behind. Then Boromand in third, a further 1.3 seconds back. Longue fourth, Poragis fifth. Idowu managed sixth in the end, with Alessio Di Caprio falling down to seventh due to penalties. Haddad just about got past Chanakinci in the final corner. They were side by side through the bus stop, but the Italian beat the Turk to the line. Vallejo with a great recovery drive for Team Europe to manage the final slot inside the top 10. That isn't the final points, of course, because points all the way down to 15th here today. And I noticed Stahulets, who was running in 15th with a couple of laps to go, lost a lot of time. I think he spun out there, and as a result, that was taken away from him. So not able to start on that reverse grid pole. Instead, that honor will go to Alvaro Carreton, one of the fastest drivers in the field, will be able to start from pole in Zandvoort.
Yeah, and pole in Zandvoort is one of the more helpful poles on the whole calendar when it comes to tracks and starting position. It is quite difficult, not impossible, but quite difficult to overtake around the circuit Zandvoort. But here we have the results once again. Danny Berezny taking the victory, 3 tenths of a second ahead of Jarno Opmeer. It got very close in the end, but Berezny held on. Opmeer did not have enough in the tank and in the battery, really, to get that position. And Barry Boromand rounds off the podium. Let's quickly just show the full result. Tymon Schutter here in last. He disconnected. And so, yeah, very, very unfortunate for him. And unfortunate for the Dutch, ultimately. I mean, 1 car in P2, 1 car dead last, no points for Schutter. And ultimately, the Dutch are sitting at exactly 18 points. Let me actually quickly calculate here. I think, 21 points. Apologies, yes. We have a different points. Yeah, I realized. 21 points for the Dutch. The Hungarians are sitting at 30 right now, as Sabakorny gets 5, and of course Berezny 25. Just to quickly show you once again how this is going to go, here is the point system, which means the rest of the world team is also sitting at 30. So we have a tie between Hungary and rest of the world for the top spot right now. The Italians did well with 18 points for P7 and P8. And of course, you have the reverse grid order there as well. And with that, we will be back in a few minutes' time for race number 2 at Zandvoort. We quickly got to set things up behind the scenes, and we will leave you with some words from our sponsors.
It's time now. Your blood is burning. Your stamina is rising. Greet all the challenges in your way.
Welcome back, then, everybody, to the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. My name is Aladar, and joining me is Badgerman, and we have witnessed a fantastic opening race to the season in Spa, in Belgium, and it was Danny Berezne who took home the victory in that one for Team Hungary, with Jarno Opmeer finishing second and Barry Borremand rounding out the podium there for the rest of the world. But onwards and upwards, we'll be going to Zandvoort for the next race, where the reverse grid from the top 15 drivers in our first race of the day will start us off.
Yeah, reverse grid for the top 15. That certainly is going to make things very interesting, as we will have Alvaro Carreton on pole position, Tino Naukarinen in second, Danny Moreno in third, and Atte Kaupinen in fourth, which means Spain and Finland on the top two rows. So a massive chance for two teams here that haven't scored all too well in the first race. Spain ultimately here with what turns out to be 4 points, apologies, my math slightly off there, 4 points, and Finland with 6. So both teams not doing too great right now. They're not on 30 like rest of the world or the Hungarians, but a massive chance. If one team could snatch a 1-2 here, even a 1-3 or 1-4, that could immediately be almost 40 points in just one race. And remember, it's Zandvoort, it's the Netherlands, it's a track that is notoriously difficult to overtake on. So I would not be surprised if we end up seeing some kind of massive points haul for any of these teams I just mentioned there.
Yeah, absolutely. Big points up and available. It would be a huge shot in the arm for the Spaniards, for the Finns. There's also some other drivers who are going to be there or thereabouts, you'd have to imagine, who will want to take some very, very solid results themselves. Zabo Konyi should be able to score some pretty good points for Hungary. He'll be starting on the third row of the grid. And with Berezne already having won the first the first race of round one for Team Hungary, that should be good news for them going forward, as long as he can hold true on that promise. We are seeing a few of the drivers now getting into the lobby, a few of the substitutions coming through for our second race of the day.
Yeah, speaking of the substitutions, let's go through the lineups for the second race. We're starting off with Team Netherlands. Once again, no changes for them. Jarno Opmeer and Tijmen Schutte will also contend the second race. For Poland, we have Patrick Kruti coming in alongside Piotr Stachurlec. For rest of the world, it will remain the same with Barry Borremand and Josh Idawu. Team Italy is doing a complete switch. Both drivers that contended the first race out, and Domenico Lovece and Dario Iermulo coming in. For France, we have Nicolas Longi taking a bit of a break, and Antoine Dezaluski will be racing for him instead. For the EU team, we have Samuel Valentin and Ruben Vallejo. For Finland, it's going to stay the same with Tino Naukarinen and Atte Kaupinen. They will already be warm and running. Hungary remains the same, Danny Berezne and Benson Sabakonyi. Then Turkey, also no changes there whatsoever. And the same can be said for the Spanish team, Alvaro Carreton and Danny Moreno. So not many changes, but a few. And it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes things up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Some different drivers coming in, some who might prefer the circuit, some who want a bit of a run out, maybe replacing some drivers who didn't have such a good opening race as well, although I don't think that's the case really for any of these guys. So let's see, looking at these drivers right now, I'm going to be very interested to see the Italian compatriots here of Lovece and Iermulo, two drivers who have come on the scene in a big way in the last year or so, who didn't necessarily hear too much about them before that point in time, but on F1 2020, they really have hit the scene in a big way. And they have performed very well in the Challenger Series as well, of course, in F1 Esports. Both of them very, very strong drivers. And it's interesting because if you look at Team Italy, I think if you average out the quality of the drivers across the whole team, they have the most even team across all 4 drivers and probably one of the best, if not the best. So if this was an event where you had 4 drivers per team in each race, I think Italy would be in with a very good shout. It's up to them to try and make that sort of consistent talent work for them in the races when they can only nominate 2 drivers per race, of course.
Yeah, I would agree. Team Italy across the board, just very consistent with all 4 drivers. Let's actually look at all the lineups. I think Spain also standing out there is pretty consistent across all 4. When I look at Nadi Perez, Alvaro Carreton, Danny Moreno, and Nicolas Mateo, of course, Moreno stands out a little bit there, but I think overall across all 4, pretty strong there. But Italy certainly one of those teams that you look at and go, yeah, that's very, very consistent across the whole lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see which team is going to come out on top once we get into the race here in Zandvoort. Just quickly, I saw a message in chat asking about a British Grand Prix. That will be the 3rd race of the day, so stay tuned for that one. We will be going to Silverstone for our 3rd and final race of the day. And just a reminder quickly for everyone who's just joining us, no qualifying here in Zandvoort. The grid is made up. The top 15 of the grid is reversed from the top 15 finishes in our first race in Belgium. And then the bottom 5 finishers from that race will start on the grid in that order. And that means that it's terrible news for Tymon Shooter because he lost out because of a disconnect in that first race, wasn't able to get back in. His car trundled home to last. Not only does he lose points for that race, but he's forced to start at the back of the grid at Zandvoort, which is such a tough track to make up positions at. So it's going to be a real uphill struggle for him. And with Otmir only starting in 14th as well, this could be a rather poor points haul for Team Netherlands at their home circuit.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a struggle for them. One thing I've noticed for both of the first 2 rounds of the ORL Nations Cup here by Mobiuz Gaming is that in both events tonight and next week, we don't know the tracks for any other events just yet. At least we haven't been told as commentators. I don't know if the drivers know, but we haven't been told yet. I think it's still being planned. But only one team has a home race. This time around, it's the Dutch who have their home race as the second race. Next time around, it's going to be Hungary. So Team Hungary is going to have their home race next Sunday. And yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see how the respective teams fare at their home grounds, if they can get a good points haul or if they struggle a little bit. They should know the track the best. They live there. But yeah, we don't know ultimately, and it's going to be interesting to compare that over the 6 weeks of events that we are going to have here as the drivers are loading into the session. Yeah, as we see there in chat, make sure to subscribe to the ORL YouTube channel. We have 5 more weeks of events with the Nations Cup here, and of course plenty of more action beyond that with ORL. And make sure you hit the like button. I don't know, what is the count at right now, Aladar? Can you see it?
The like count currently sitting at 282 likes right now.
Oh, we're getting close to 300. 18 more. If we could do that, that would be fantastic. So help us out here and bring in some new people. The YouTube algorithm likes that. So bring in some new people to watch some great F1 racing right here.
And let's be honest, you'd be doing them a favor bringing them through to watch this. This is going to be exhilarating stuff as they get underway for the formation lap here in Zandvoort, in the Netherlands, in those sandy dunes, and make for a very unique setting for this particular circuit. Up and down and up and down. It's like a roller coaster around here, especially when you get it right. And once again, we've got a very overcast day over the top of us right now. Threatening rain for these drivers. They'll know the forecast. We don't know. But it looks like rain is a potential possibility. We didn't see it in Spa in the end, despite very grey skies. But you never know.
Yeah, I think it's actually a bit more unlikely that we're going to see some rain. Looking at the tire choices here, very split across the board. 9 drivers on the softs, 11 on the mediums. If we had rain coming, I think it would be a bit more towards one side or the other. That split tells me that it's possibly not rain coming. If it is coming, it's going to be right at the crossover point, which would be absolutely crazy, incredible. And it could make for some interesting orders at the end of the race to see who made the right call before the start and who made the wrong call. But that being said, with the tires, there's not much of a difference between the softs and the mediums. We are talking here at the Netherlands about half a second a lap that the mediums are slower. So not much between them, not much of a time loss, and ultimately overtaking, we said it many times before and we'll say it again, is very, very difficult around here.
Indeed it is. Alvaro Carreton will line up on the front of this grid for Team Spain, but he is on the medium tyres. Now Carina, Moreno, Kalpanen, the 3 drivers behind him, they're all on softs. This could be a very interesting start to this race, as the soft tyre runners ought to get a bit of a better launch off the line with Vallejo in 6th. There are 3 Spaniards on the front 3 rows of the grid. Vallejo, of course, participating for Team Europe. But here come the lights for the second time today. Carreton on your right, now Karinen on the left. And we are underway once again with Carreton leading away in that Williams. Looks like a decent start from him. Now Karinen going to be alongside him here. It's one. They're 3 wide already, and there's contact between the 2 Spaniards. And Moreno is pushed wide by Carreton, who himself was pushed wide, and it's allowed both AlphaTauris, the 2 Finnish drivers, are into the top 2 right now. It is now Karinen leading from Atte Kalpanen in 2nd, then Carreton in 3rd, Dabukoni and Vallejo. They're battling over P4 right now. Vallejo able to get the jump on the Hungarian. Nice move from him. Moreno has been shuffled down to 6th as a result of that first corner contact.
Yeah, I mean, this is the perfect scenario right now for the Finns. Look at that. P1, P2, if they can bring that home, that's going to be a massive 46 points for them already. And they would immediately shoot back up into contention after what was a not very good, in fact, a horrendous Belgian Grand Prix for them. They would immediately be back in it, but they're gonna have to bring that home. I mean, 3 places gained among both drivers on the opening lap is good, but you gotta keep it. And now Karinen is already pulling a gap to Kalpanen. Is Kalpanen trying to hold up the field a little bit to make sure they get the win?
It wouldn't surprise me. Now would be the time to do it as well when there's no DRS. Here comes Moreno up the inside of Ruben Vallejo into turn 1, and Moreno moves back up into P4. So he has been able to get past both Shabukonyi and Vallejo on this opening lap after his misfortunes in the first corner. Now Carreton is going to let Moreno through as well. Carreton on those mediums does not want to hold up his teammate on softer tyres and lets Moreno back up into 3rd.
Yeah, I think that may have been the plan all around to for Carreton to let Moreno by, but they messed it up a little bit in turn 1, and so the 2 Finns took the opportunity with both hands and said thank you very much for gifting us a 1-2, and they are not looking back right now. Look at the gap there that now Karinen already has. Let's quickly look at this. That's already incredible.
A lot of fighting going on here over 10th, 11th and 12th. Kruti put Yemulo offline there, and that caused some issues further down. Shockwaves throughout the field, and it's Opmir who's taking the best advantage of it right now. He's up the inside of 1. He's going to try and get Josh Idowu as well on the run down towards turn 1, but Idowu's already alongside Yemulo, who might find himself in trouble as well. Just behind them, there's Dezaluski, and that's someone going around as Stahulets, and Dezaluski goes into him for the French team. So there's front wing damage for Antoine Dezaluski, and a spin for Stahulets for Team Poland as well. It was very chaotic there, and all of that was shockwaves, aftershocks if you will, from the fight between Patrick Kruti and Dario Yemulo. Kruti won out on that one, moving himself up in a 9th. And everywhere that you look, there's drivers looking for opportunities to make positions on one another.
Yeah, we're looking at Idawu right now, who's sending it down the inside. Whoa, that is a risky maneuver, and this time around it did not pay off. It got very, very close there indeed between Idawu and Yemulo. Remember, this is still lap... Oh, no, this is lap 3 now. We have the DRS available. It goes by very quickly here. And he goes deep. Now has the inside through the Audi S. And they're still side by side through the final corner, final proper corner, really. And he gets it done round the outside. What a move from Josh Idawu.
Almost lost the car entirely. There goes Jarno Opmeer up the inside. He goes straight past the Italian, who dives straight into the pits. He is done with that battle. Those tyres were definitely going to be getting rather overheated with all that fighting that was going on. Stahulets is into the pit. So is Donoso, who's had to pit. He's got front wing damage. Did I get the wrong Renault there? No, Desaluski also has front wing damage. So both Renaults, both of the French drivers, managed to pick up front wing damage in that incident, and that is a disaster for them. Meanwhile, let's look back up to the front because there's 2 seconds between now Karinen and Atte Kalpen, and this is a tactical race that the Finns are able to employ by having the top 2 positions in this one thus far. Kalpinen backing up the field, letting now Karinen drive clear at the very front.
I mean, this is remarkable. In the first race, we saw Danny Berezne with what was arguably one of the greatest single driver clever plays that I've ever seen, certainly, where he comes out of the pit lane, lets Jarno Opmeer give him the DRS, and then overtakes him back down the Camel Straight. Now we get to see one of the best team plays, and the Spaniards have had enough. Moreno goes in, and more drivers have had enough. Moreno, Vallejo, Giannicinci, Lovece, all into the pit lane right now, and the Finns are just running a 1-2 here. They're driving away with it, it seems.
Disaster strikes for Danny Moreno. He's picked up a 5-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. He didn't get that Williams slowed down in time, and the Spaniards race, which has had so many issues already in such a short race, gets even worse right now. And that is such a shame for him because he has a lot of pace around here today. And I'm sure he's going to be looking at a good finish, at least on the track, but he's going to lose out so much as a result of that 5-second time penalty with the field as close as it is. Kalpinen now is actually closing down now Karinen once again. He's put on a bit of a burst of speed there in second, probably feeling a bit threatened by the fact that Moreno has gone for the undercut behind. Carreton is still up here with Kalpinen as well. Sabo Konyi, though, he's falling a little bit away from these guys. Barry Borreman, who hasn't made any progress in this race thus far, he's had an issue at some point to be in 16th and 3 seconds away from the cars ahead. He's also picked up a 3-second time penalty. So this is not a good follow-up to an excellent start for the rest of the world team. Josh Idawu, though, he's still having a good time of it. He's about to move up, although he's actually coming into the pit lane. Several drivers into the pits.
Yeah, including Atte Kalpinen. He went for the pit stop here. Now, Vara Carreton on the alternate strategy. I wonder how long he's going to go. You can switch onto the soft tire pretty early on. We're talking about lap 3, lap 4, when you can start going on to the soft tire. It's very early, and you're going to struggle near the end, but you can make it without any kind of puncture issue and just nursing the car home. But ideally, I think if you're starting on the mediums, you want to pit around lap, I would say lap 7, lap 8, maybe lap 6 now would be the chance. And likewise, if you're on the softs, you can pit lap 1 for all that's possible, but you also want to take these softs a little bit longer because they are a bit quicker. So I think the ideal point there is has probably gone, actually. It's probably around lap 4, lap 5, but now Karinen couldn't come in because his teammate was going to come in, and now we see the top 2 come, and Kruti follows it as well. Opmeer will take the lead of this race, at least on track. He still has to pit, as does Danny Berezne, but they're leading once again.
It's these two again. You can't separate them. Jarno Opmeer and Danny Berezne, 2 of the very fastest drivers in the world right now, are back at the front, only temporarily, of course. They are yet to pit in this race here at Zandvoort. Let's see where everyone's going to file out. Atte Kalpinen has lost out big time here in the pit stops. He's lost out to Moreno, to Carreton, and to Ruben Vallejo. He was running second before he came into the pits. Now he is effectively down in P5. His teammate now, Karinen, is still leading the way, but the rest of the field is a lot closer to him now than they were before the pit stop phase began. Moreno right up the rear end now of the AlphaTauri for Team Finland. Carreton also being dragged along with his teammate there. The 2 Spaniards in what should be second and third once the pit stops shake out, but Moreno does have that time penalty to contend with. Vallejo will be in 4th with Kalpanen in 5th. Lovece, who's doing a great job thus far for Team Italy, he is caught up to this train of drivers. He is in 8th right now, but that will become 6th once Otmir and Berezne pit.
Yeah, Otmir is in, Berezne is not. He decides to at least get a lead lap to his name here. Not that that counts for anything. This isn't IndyCar after all. But yeah, Danny Berezne, interesting. I think he's banking on... Oh, what's going on?
Sorry, Kalpanen. He's just pushed Lovece completely wide on the exit of turn 1, and that didn't look friendly at all from where I was sitting. Atte Kalpanen not giving Domenico Lovece the time of day there on the exit of the first corner. Lovece will be absolutely furious with that one. Kalpanen has had a rough race so far, and I doubt he's going to be many drivers' best friend after he held up everyone in that first stint, and now he's made contact with Domenico Lovece.
Yeah, that's the downside of trying to employ some team plays here. You're not going to make any friends out on track, other than, of course, your teammate. But yeah, Atte Kalpanen here now in a net 5th place. Let's look at Danny Berezne. I think he will come in now. Or is he going to play it very patiently and stay out on track a little further? I think now is the time. And indeed, now is the time. I thought for a second he might fool me there into saying it too early. But no, he does come in indeed. And Danny Moreno will take the lead. But of course, he has that penalty. And now, oh, it's getting close with both of the Spaniards there. And now Carina around the outside. He's still alongside. This is Shades. Oh, and they touch. They touch. Now Carina and Moreno. This is shades of Longe in the F1 esports race.
Shades of Longe, but it's all gone wrong there for Danny Moreno. He's just about held the car together. How he did that, I will never know. And Ruben Vallejo is going to be having a code brown moment in the Ferrari because Moreno came flying across the front of his nose in turn 4 there. And somehow he's managed to avoid making contact with the Spanish driver. Vallejo currently sitting in 4th right now, as now Carina was able to reclaim the race lead. But with Moreno out of the way, Alvaro Caraton is on the softer compound tyres. He is going to be taking this lead away from now Carina at the end of this lap. You would have to imagine, if not sooner. He's very close as we head into turn 11 here. Now Carina slower. You can see how much slower he is there through the long left-hander. And he's going to struggle to keep Caraton at bay any longer.
Yeah, let's go on board here with Alvaro Caraton, because I think the closing speed of the Spaniard is going to be so overwhelming for now Carina that there's no chance. But he has no ERS. No, he has no ERS. He's still sending it. Oh, that's way too deep. That is way too deep from Caraton. He has the position, but I think that might land on the steward's table.
I think that might be personal between these guys right now. Now Carina and Moreno just made contact. Let me think back to the first lap. It was now Carina that pushed Caraton into his teammate Moreno, that lost Moreno all those positions at the start. These guys are at each other's throats right now at the front of this race. The Spanish and the Finns are starting a whole new war here on the track in Netherlands. But it is Caraton now jumping clear at the front on that set of soft tyres. Now Carina in second on mediums, with Moreno harassing him all the way. Vallejo just about staying in touch with them in 4th with Atte Kalpanen. Same story down in 5th. Chanakinci is the next driver behind him. He's on for a good result for Team Turkey. With Lovece, he'll still be very upset with Atte Kalpanen from a couple of laps ago. He is still chugging around there in 7th, doing a decent job. Zabo Konyi hasn't had the race of his career, but he's still on for some decent points for Team Hungary in 8th. Then you have Bari Boroman, who's managed a huge undercut by pitting before almost anyone else on 4-lap-old soft tyres. He's going to struggle at the end of the race, but he's currently managed to find himself up into 9th.
Yeah, I mean, Moreno on the outside there wanted the switchback, but now Carina parked it well on the apex, kept the position there. However, Moreno did not use any of his overtake button, any of his ERS battery charge beyond what the normal deployment is. So he really didn't want that overtake, it seems. But at the same time, I'm thinking, with how much Caraton is gaining on now Carina here, it might be that now Carina has some slight front wing damage from that incident, from that dive from Caraton earlier. There might be some damage to that AlphaTauri.
No visible damage on the front wing there for now Carina, but there might be a tiny bit there nevertheless. Meanwhile, Jarno Otmir has been able to get past Josh Idowu for 10th and 11th. Patrick Kruti has been shuffled well down the order. He was 10th about a lap ago, and now he's down in 13th. He was dispatched by Otmir, Idowu, and Berezhny over the course of one lap. And what a name of drivers, what a list of drivers rather, to get past you. What a list of names. As here comes Moreno around the outside in the final corner. He's blindsiding now Karinen right here, and there is nothing the Finn can do. He has 3% ERS, and he cannot keep the Spaniard at bay. So it is a Spanish 1-2 for now, but Moreno has 5 seconds of time penalty to contend with. He needs to try and jump clear of now Karinen. Now Karinen, after being at war with the Spanish, can do them a favor now if he holds up the rest of the field while Moreno drives away from him there in second. You'd have to imagine Moreno has the pace to do that, judging by the way the race has gone thus far. It is Vallejo who is next on the chopping block, rather. Now Karinen is going to be chopped once again by Vallejo here. Kauppinen still holding on in 5th, though, so it's still not bad for Team Finland. But they were 1-2 earlier on. They'll be disappointed with this second stint so far.
Yeah, it's quite ironic how things turn around at one point, aren't they? First, we have the Spaniards and the Finns getting at each other's throats, and now Karinen could accidentally do the Spaniards a big favor here. Look at this, over a second already between Moreno and now Karinen. Certainly, now Karinen has some kind of damage. It may not be visible, but I'm pretty sure it's there. Here goes Vallejo now down the main straight, and that should be an easy overtake. Is it going to be? That is the question. Yes, it is. And now his teammate Kauppinen. The question is, will now Karinen try to hold him up?
Further behind, Akinchi's going for Leveche, and Otmir's going for Boromand. Otmir almost losing it on the exit of turn 1 there in the Mercedes, and they're still making contact. They're banging wheels, and somehow neither of them lose the cars. That is incredible between these two. And there they go. They do touch on the exit of 4, and it's Otmir into the wall. He's round Boromand into the wall as well. Otmir will not be scoring any decent points in this race. Meanwhile, Kauppinen has been able to get past now Karinen there. So the Finns switch positions, but it disaster strikes for Boromand and Otmir. 2 of our podium sitters from the first race are in the wall in the Netherlands.
Yeah, absolute calamity there between Boromand and Otmir. And I think it was just a misjudgment there. Nothing like we've seen from the Spaniards and the Finns where they were going at it. This was just a misunderstanding there, thinking that the other car was already behind, but it wasn't. And then they just tangled up and both ended up in the wall. Drama there for both rest of the world and the Dutch team here, as there's more going on. Idawu is battling with Akinci and Berezhny. They're 3 wide. Guys,
He's forced his way around the outside. He made contact with them to guarantee himself the space, and he pulls it off on both of them. That is sick from Danny Berezhny. Incredible driving from the Hungarian. He moves himself up into 8th. Zabo Konyi is there in 7th as well. Ido will be very unhappy that the moment he gets past Akinci, he gets passed by Danny Berezhny as well. The Hungarians looking at a very, very solid result. Leveche is all over now Karinen, who is fading fast in this one. The Finn not able to deal with the pace of the rest of the field right now. And that is surprising for someone who's been at the top level of F1 esports for quite a while here. Tino now Karinen struggling in Zandvoort with Leveche all over his rear end. Zabo Konyi just behind. Then Berezhny, then Idowu, Akinci, and Shooter is still in this train as well for the Netherlands. He is now flying the flag for the Dutch team at their home race, because Otmir is 35 seconds adrift at the very back.
Yeah, and he's losing more time as well. I think he may have some damage and he may take it slow. Maybe he's got the AI driving for him. I don't know. Yeah, he's losing seconds every single sector. He's going really slow right now. What's going on there? As we look at the battling there in this train, we have the two Alfa Romeos, the two Hungarians switching positions there. That was friendly. That was no contest between them. Sabokonyi waving by Danny Berezhny. He probably thinks Berezhny has a better chance, and I gotta say, after that double overtake in turn 1, I wouldn't disagree. Danny Berezhny, I never thought that such a double overtake in turn 1 here at Zandvoort was possible, but I mean, we all learn, right? We all learn every single day, and I certainly learned that someone like Danny Berezhny can definitely pull that sort of a move off, but wow, I think we already saw the overtake of, at the very least, this event, maybe the whole season.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see about that one. Here's to many more, as now Karinen is still trying to battle with Leveche, still trying to hold up the Italian, and this is doing wonders for Danny Moreno's point scoring at the end of this race. That 5-second time penalty is due to put him down into 5th at the moment. If he drives a little bit further away from now Karinen, he'll be on for 4th at least. So the Spaniards getting clear at the front is very big news for them. Here comes Leveche on now Karinen, though, around the outside into turn 1. Now Karinen is near enough alongside in the braking zone to keep the fight going, but Leveche out drags him on the exit with those softer tyres. Nicely done by the Italian in the pink Racing Point. Berezne now, he's looking to pick up the scraps in this battle. Let's not forget how late he pitted as well. He's got very fresh soft tyres relative to the rest, and look at this. This is not an overtaking spot, but he's going to go around the outside of turn 6 and 7. Is that even possible? We'll have to find out. No, it doesn't look like it, as he almost loses the car. Four-wheel drift, and he has to back out of it in the end. But that is audacious and a half. Now Karinen has to worry about his inside as Berezne thrusts and counter thrusts. He will not give now Karinen any respite here whatsoever. Switchback after switchback going on as the next DRS zone is engaged. Now Karinen just about managed to get DRS off of Leveche, and as a result, Berezne will have to wait for turn 1, but surely this move is coming sooner rather than later.
I mean, what a defense from now Karinen here. Every single time Danny Berezne attempts the switchback, and every single time Tino Naukarinen just blocks off the inside, making sure that doesn't happen, but he has no response for this right now, as he just takes the inside into turn 1. And that is the overtake done. Now Karinen further down the order into P7. Still a pretty good points haul overall for the Finns. P4 and P7, but certainly not what they were hoping for with 2 laps to go. And yes, we just got confirmation there from Kasper Ekström in the chat that Tino has wing damage. Not surprising. Now he loses another position to Sabo Konyi here. And yeah, I think it's been obvious for the last couple of laps with how much time he's been losing. We know how quick Tino Naukarinen usually is. For him to lose a second lap here to the rest of the field, that has to do with damage. Even though it's not visual, there can still be damage to the front wing of this car, and there certainly is.
Absolutely, so really rough luck for him. He came out of the pits in this second stint, still leading the race. But ever since that contact, it has all gone wrong for the Finn. Down into 8th, still getting points right now. Ido was very close behind him there, wanted to try and make the move. Kruti and Valentina battling. Valentin pushed very wide in the final corner by Patrick Kruti there. That wasn't terribly nice from the Polish driver, and Barry Boroman's looking to mug them both as a result of it. Boroman needs to make these positions because he has a 3-second time penalty hanging over his head. Further up, there's Ido trying to get past now Karinen, who's still battling as best he can in that AlphaTauri, the wounded AlphaTauri of Team Finland. And Idowu forced to stay behind him for now. He really wants to get past because he feels like he can dispatch Sabo Konyi, you'd have to imagine. But I don't think he's going to be able to do it before the end of this race. He's running out of time right now. Berezne very close behind Domenico Leveche, but with only 1 DRS zone left to go, I don't think he can make that move either. He might just have to settle for 6th, but when he started in 15th, that is nevertheless an incredible drive from the Hungarian.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have to switch to the front now as the Spaniards are at least on track, set to get a 1-2. And look at Vallejo, 4.5 to Moreno. This might turn out to be... Kaupinen actually might have a chance here. Nope, at least not for now. Let's see, Alvaro Carreton comes across the line to win for Spain. Moreno on track P2. But I think it will turn into a P4 ultimately. Yes, Vallejo third, Vallejo second, Kaupinen third, Moreno fourth, Leveche fifth, Berezne sixth, Sabo Konyi seventh. So the Hungarians with a good overall points haul here. They should be able to take the lead in the championship after 2 rounds. And now Karinen, the wounded AlphaTauri, as you correctly and wonderfully called it there, still managed to get a P8 with that amount of damage. That, I think, is remarkable and deserves quite a bit of respect there. Josh Idawu P9, Janik Inge P10. Tymon Schutter gets at least 5 points for the Dutch here at the home race, but it's a very, very disappointing race ultimately for them. Kruti 12th, Valentin 13, Yamula 14. Oz Yildirim gets the final point. Then we have Stachulets in 16, Boroman 17, Dizalewski 18, Donoso 19, a 0-0 for the French team. The most unlucky team, I think, here probably in this race. And then finally, Jano Opmeer, after the crash with Boroman, down in 20th and last.
Yeah, so great result for Team Spain, though. And here we see Alvaro Carreton as Michael Schumacher ascending the top step of the podium for Team Williams. What a result it was for him. Moreno, without that time penalty, without speeding into the pit lane, it's such an unnecessary mistake to make, an unforced error. He could have been a Spanish 1-2. Indeed, it was a Spanish 1-2, but Ruben Vallejo is, of course, participating for Team Europe, Spain's B team, rather than for the Spanish team themselves. But nevertheless, great result for Spaniards everywhere. Great result for the Hungarians, decent result for the Italians, and both Turks inside the points. That's good news for them, even if it was only 10th and 15th for Akinci and Yildirim, respectively. And nil point for the Francois. That is terrible, terrible news for them.
Yeah, it certainly is. If we look back at the standings, if I can find them here, they only had 16 points anyway, and now they get a 0-0 while the teams behind them, Turkey, get 6, so they're getting closer. They're going to be at 13. Poland get a good haul here. Well, not a good haul, but they get 4, so they're actually overtaking and going to 18. Europe, obviously, with Vallejo in second, get 21 points there, so they will overtake Finland, will overtake, and Spain with that 1-4 will also overtake. So France will actually be second last, only in front of Turkey by 3 points.
Yeah, they will have a chance to fight back, though, in our third and final race of the day and of the round. And that will be at Silverstone in Britain. A great track for racing, I'm sure you'll all agree. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what these guys can do there. We'll let them get their substitutes sorted out and the lobby set up. We will be back in a few minutes' time to bring you the third race of the day.
It's time now. Your blood is burning. Your stamina is rising. Greet all the challenges in your way.
Welcome back once again, everybody, to the ORL and FuturEsportS Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. We've had 2 incredible races filled with action thus far. It was Danny Berejne who took the win in our first race of the day in Belgium, and then Alvaro Carreton took it home for Spain in our second one at Zandvoort. And now we have the third and final race of the day at Britain. My name is Aladar, and joining me in the commentary box, as always, is Badgerman.
Yeah, we had 2 great races. One really decided ultimately by a fantastic solo play, if you will, as Danny Berejne was able to get the DRS off of Jan Otme as he came out of the pit lane, and then he never looked back, took the victory there at Belgium. And then the second race, A bit of a team play there from the Finns, but it ultimately all went to shambles as we had damage for Tino Naukarinen, and he finished down in 8th, but the Spaniards did very well for themselves with a P1 and a P4. It could have been a 1-2 if not for the penalty for Danny Moreno for speeding in the pit lane.
Indeed, and Danny Moreno, of course, one of many Dannys in the field. There's plenty of Dannys in F1 esports, in the world of F1 esports. I've always noticed that, actually. So if you want to be fast, just rename yourself to Daniel. That'll help you out. We'll see the standings there in chat. You guys can take a look at the current order of things. I'll just sing them out to you in a second as well once I can get them up here. But we have the drivers coming in and making their substitutions. So why don't we go through what the field will look like for our third and final race of the day.
Yes, indeed, and we can start things off here with, of course, as we always do, because we make this in IRL 2020 Constructors Championship order, so we don't confuse you guys. We start off with the Netherlands, and Jan Opmeer will return for a third race of the evening, so he'll participate in all 3, and of course in the next one as well. But alongside him, no more Tijmen Schutte. The hope, of course, for the Dutch is that Floris Vyers is going to have a bit more good luck than Tijmen Schutte had, who, of course, experienced the disconnect in the first race and finished last. He did a very good comeback up to P11 in the second race, but, of course, very much a used evening for him. Then we move over to Poland. In the Red Bulls, it's going to be Tomasz Poradzic coming back and Kamil Komoni doing his debut here in the Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. Rest of the world, no change for them. Barry Berman and Josh Idawu all the way through the evening. For Italy, we're going to have a bit of a change there with Daniela Haddad and Alessio Di Capua. For the French team, Nicolas Longue will make his return. He participated in race 1, then sat out for race 2 to let Antoine de Zalewski drive, and now he'll be back alongside Fabrizio Donoso, who will be participating and has participated in the first 2 and will be participating in all 3. Team Europe, Pablo Joglar and Ruben Vallejo. For the Finns, Tino Naukarinen and Atte Kaupinen, both of these on triple duty here tonight. They will do all 3 races. Same for the Hungarians, Dani Berezne and Bence Savakonyi, a very familiar duo if you've been watching this stream for the last almost 2 hours. Same for the Turks, Canakinci and Ulaş Yildirim, also all the time. And then we have Spain, also no changes for them whatsoever. Alvaro Carreton, the race winner of Zandvoort, and Danny Moreno finished second on track, 4th after penalties.
All right, the lobby is up and ready. So once we can get everyone in here, then we should be able to get underway. So it'll just be a couple of moments here where we make sure everyone is in the lobby.
Yeah, it was really just waiting for me, wasn't it?
Well, I was trying to say that without saying it, but yes, we were waiting for you, Austin. But no worries for that right now, as all the drivers are present and correct. Just waiting for Alvaro Carreton to select the Williams, and then we can get underway for the third and final race of the day. And looking at the drivers who are coming in, we've got Pablo Joglar coming back, of course. We saw a lot of him in the qualifiers. It was always him and Vallejo in those qualifiers, so nice to see that particular pairing back together. And we got the return of the Donoso Longue pairing. Hopefully that will bring more fortune for Team France, like it did in the first round compared to how it did in that second race of the day. Forrest Wyers coming in for the Netherlands. That'll be interesting to see how he stacks up. He is, of course, an F1 esports caliber driver. Alessio Di Capua returning for Italy alongside Daniela Haddad. And, of course, then another driver, interesting, another new driver coming in today, Kamil Komoni. That's a driver who I've commentated on a little bit in the past, a while ago, when he was in the third tier of a different league. And he put together one of the single most impressive races I've ever seen. Now, admittedly, it was in the third tier, but he won by 30-something seconds in Singapore. And it was just one of the best drives I've seen relative to the competition around him. And since then, he has just kept pushing on. He has been a very impressive up-and-coming driver. I'm looking forward to seeing how he can fare here at Silverstone.
Yeah, certainly an interesting drive. I mean, looking at the grid, I think this is honestly, I can safely say this is the best grid I've ever commentated on. It's just, it is esports level, let's be honest. It is completely F1 esports level, top to bottom, first to last. This is all F1 esports quality drivers. And they are loading into the session anytime soon. They are readying up, so we are going to get ready soon. Let's just quickly look at the format once again. It's going to be just like at Belgium. Short qualifying, 1 18-minute qualifying session, followed by a 25% race. You can hear the clock ticking in the background, I think. Yes, you will be able to hear that. So that gives us the notice that the drivers are, in fact, loading in short qualifying 25% race. And once again, the top 10 in qualifying are going to have to start on the tire they qualify on if both qualifying and the race are dry. And around Britain, that's not always a guarantee.
Indeed, it is not. Hasn't been a guarantee at any of our circuits thus far today, but we have seen only dry racing, and there we go. It's not a guarantee at all. In fact, it is absolutely chucking it down here at Silverstone. And what else would we expect? Looks like it's going to be intermediate tyre conditions to start this one off at least, rather than the full wets. But nevertheless, the rain cometh and spiceth things up.
This is going to make things a lot different. We have prepared a little bit for if it had been dry, in terms of where's the world record? Where was the F1 esports pole time? Well, that all goes out the window because it is not dry, and so we can't really compare those times, but this is going to make for an interesting race, I reckon. Certainly an interesting qualifying. This can shake things up a little bit, because some drivers are better in the rain than others. They are all really, really close when it gets to the dry. We've seen that in the first two races, but the moment it starts raining, you have some that deal with it fantastically and some that just struggle a little bit out there.
And shout out to everyone watching in the chat. Currently have 410 of you watching. Let's push that and see how many we can get here. And let us know in chat as well who you're supporting, who you think is going to snag pole here today. Because I'm fascinated to see, of course, we as ever have the stream of Team Hungary's. Actually, let us know in chat in just a moment's time, because the live standing should be coming through here just now. And keep an eye on chat for that one, as we'll see what the current order of things are. Right now, looking out on circuit, it is Tino Naukarinen, who was, of course, starting from near the front in that race at Zandvoort. Before it all went wrong for him, he was leading the way. He's the first one out on track here on his intermediate tyres.
Yeah, he's looking to get a first lap in. One thing to note, generally, the drivers have 4 or 5 sets of tyres available. I think 4 sets of the softs, or 3 sets of the softs and 1 set of the mediums. I think it's 4. Yeah, sorry, I messed that up a little bit in my head. 4 sets of tires, usually 3 softs and 1 medium, or 4 softs. They get the choice at the start of the session. But this time around, it's raining, so they're not going to be using dry tires, that's for sure. And they only get 3 sets of intermediates, so they don't have as much choice as they might want to, but they don't need that. One thing to note is that these intermediate tires take a little bit of time to get into a good shape. So what are we going to see? Well, we're going to see drivers take multiple laps in a row around this track, around Silverstone, and we are going to see constant movement in the timing sheets. So prepare for a manic qualifying session. I hope you have your snacks ready right next to you, on your desk, on your armchair, wherever you're sitting right now, because you can't go away for a single second.
Thank you to everyone, to the couple of people saying Team Aladar in chat. I'm afraid I'm not participating, but thank you nevertheless, as it is Tino Naukarinen who is indeed participating for Team Finland here for the Alpha Tauri boys. And let's see how his lap is looking at the moment. Bit of understeer there, and that will have cost him a little bit of time. But of course, this is just basically a sighter lap. The initial laps on these intermediate tyres aren't going to mean a whole lot. The track is only going to improve, you'd have to imagine, unless the rain starts getting even heavier. But now he's heading down the back straight, down towards Stowe. And we'll see. That's always a tricky corner in the dry. You're going to have to throw it in there in the wet, and you could easily lose the car. He's cautious, very, very cautious through there. Off throttle for a long time in that AlphaTauri. Now into the hard braking zone for Vale. Turning it in, a bit of understeer on the apex, but not too bad into club. This is one of the toughest traction zones of the whole calendar, but he nails it without a problem, even in the wet. And across the line for a 1:34.699 to start off proceedings. That is a decent lap time from Tino Naukarinen, but not good enough to beat Jarno Opmeer, who goes 0.5 of a second faster. Atte Kauppinen comes through. He's down in fourth with Donoso, splitting Naukarinen and Opmeer at the opening exchanges here. There's a couple of Turkish drivers who are coming to the end of their laps as Yildirim has invalidated, but Chanakinci with a very respectable lap time puts himself up into third, just beating up Rajish, who now finds himself in third with Akinci in second.
Yeah, it will continue like this. We're going to see all the drivers continue on their laps. Opmeer running a second lap, and all these drivers. It surprises me a bit that Nicolas Longe went into the pit lane, and it also surprised me that Danny Moreno took the longest time out of all these drivers to get out of the pit lane, as Alessio Di Capua goes P1 there with a 1:34.0. So I think it's safe to say that we are going to drop into the 1:33s over the course of this qualifying session. I don't think we've seen the end of it. Again, the intermediates are not in their best shape on the first lap of a stint.
Zabo Konyi is now coming up towards the line for Team Hungary. He only goes into 8th, but that's not too bad. That's roughly halfway in the middle of the field right now. It is Alessio Di Capua who currently has the fastest lap, with Jarno Opmeer second, Josh Adowu in third, Chanakinci just behind him in fourth, and then the two Poles, Komoni and Poradzic, in fourth and fifth and sixth. Make that sixth and seventh as Tino Naukarinen on his second crack at it moves himself up into third. This is much more like it from the Finnish driver who struggled with that wing damage towards the end of the race in Zandvoort. He'll be feeling a lot better about this one now. Donoso just shuffles him down to fourth.
Yeah, and Jarno Opmeer has just posted a lap time that just lets everyone else seem like amateurs. And never mind, Tomasz Poradzic comes in and says not so quick, champion, and is just 0.04 of a second behind him, but a 33.5. I expected high 33s in the second lap for some of these drivers, but a mid 33, 33.5, and from two drivers, that is remarkable. That is a fantastic lap time. Let's see where Danny Berezne is. I think he's one driver we have to look out for, obviously, considering the events of the first two races here. He's on the Hanger Straight right now. He's getting towards the line there. And oh, he backed out. Okay. Who else is on a run? Danny Moreno, possibly. He's in Cops right now. And oh, that was close with the line. Did he invalidate or not?
No, he's still going out there, is the Spaniard. Still looking okay for this one. He's invalidated one attempt already. He's a couple of tenths away from Opmeer's Sector 1 time, though, so struggling a little bit there. Let's see what it's going to be like through Sector 2 as he comes across that particular marker. That's a bit more like it. A 38.5 is what he managed through the second sector of the lap compared to a 38.4 for Jarno Opmeer. Currently, he's looking to go into the high 33s with this one.
Yeah, that would definitely be good enough for a top 6 right now at the very least. If he can stay in the 133s, even if it's the high 133s, there's a massive gap between Caraton and Donoso, and that's exactly where Danny Moreno fits in right now. 0.5 tenth behind his teammate Alvaro Caraton, and makes it a 5-6 for the Spaniards for now. But there's so much more to come. Generally, the drivers will give it 2 shots, 2 runs. One with the first set of intermediates that we saw, where we have Opmeer in the pits now, De Capua in the pits, Poradzic in the pits, and more drivers to come into the pit lane, and then they will go out on a second run. With the lap times being 1:30, you can sort of say if they go out at exactly the 9-minute mark, they're going to have an out lap, and then they will probably remain in the pit lane for quite a few minutes still, because they want the best conditions out on track. And that generally, even in the rain, is the case at the end of the session. So expect them to come out, most of them probably at the 6-7 minute mark, maybe, is where I would expect them. And I think with the calm before the storm coming up, as Danny Berezne now goes into 5th, let's just quickly remind you, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. It helps us out massively, and you get a notification when you return for the 5 next weeks of the ORL Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. This is not a one-night event. This is 6 weeks of pure action.
Looking at the order right now, there's a couple of surprises in here for me. Barry Burmand, currently sitting in 17th and last of everyone who has set a lap time. It's a 34.4, is less than a second behind Jarno Otmir's provisional pole time. But nevertheless, the Iranian driving for the rest of the world team, he's been so quick. He was so quick in that first qualifying session. Seems to be struggling a little bit in the wet conditions here. Let's see, he maybe just didn't get to string a proper lap together. He might be able to go faster when he next comes out onto the track. As Yildirim, Longe and Hoglar are all yet to register lap times. They have been invalidating theirs and thus have not been able to bring through a proper lap time to compete with the rest of them. Moreno is currently on a push lap here, I do believe. He's had a pretty good Sector 1, improving on his best Sector 1 time by about a quarter of a second. So this could be a very good lap time from Moreno if he continues on like this.
Yeah, we have a yellow flag in Sector 3. I think that's for cars going a bit slowly for to start their lap, maybe letting another car by that is on a flyer. As you can see, it is very busy out there. 15 of the 20 drivers out on track right now, either on an out lap or a flying lap. As Longe, all of a sudden, his first lap that counts immediately shoots him up to second place.
Yeah, but this lap from Moreno is rapid. I think he's going to the top of the order if he nails this final sector. Oh no, he runs wide. He loses it on the exit of Stowe. He invalidates his lap and back into the pits he goes immediately. And that is such a shame because he was definitely going. He was on track for a 33.4, a 33.3 maybe. But unfortunately, it is not to be for him. Let's see now. Jarno Otmir is pushing and he's already found 2/10 in the opening sector of this lap. So he is looking to raise the bar even further at the top of the standings.
If he continues like that, we might have a chance of seeing a 1:32 lap time here in qualifying. We saw him improve by half a second from his first to his second lap. If he can improve even more now, then that would immediately put him up into the 1:32s, which would be a very, very remarkable lap time indeed. But he needs to get this right through Maggots, Beckett's, and then Chapel. Looks good. It might not look the most dramatic, but that is a good thing. I've mentioned it before in the dry, and it's even more true in the wet. The most boring driving style tends to be the fastest. You don't want much drama. You don't want much oversteer, obviously. So it might look slow, but it certainly isn't as he comes through Vale and now Club. What's it going to be? Longe, actually, 33.2. And Otmer, will he beat it? Most likely, yes, he does. 33.1, not quite into the 1:32s, but he's getting there. And he's not the only one. Longe, just a 10th and a bit off. Paracic in third now. 33.3. And there is a lot of movement. I promised you that. And I hope I didn't I hope it doesn't under-deliver.
Indeed, it doesn't seem to be under-delivering right now. Alvaro Caraton has managed to slipstream off of one of the Team Europe cars down the back straight there and into Stowe he goes in the Williams. Let's see what Caraton is going to be able to manage here. He was already a couple of tenths up at the end of Sector 2 on his previous best lap time. Someone just moved up the order. That was Camille Comogni, who's gone up into 6th there. So nice job from him.
Oh,
Daniele has that up into 4th. Caraton holds the car and manages 6th position. But it's not really fast enough for him. He'd like to be higher up than that, considering where Team Spain are in the championship. Much more like it from Burmand, who manages to go up into P4 there. Nice job from the rest of the world team. Idowu puts a punctuation mark after that one, a big old exclamation mark even, as he moves himself up into 2nd place between Longe and Otmir. It is still Jarno Otmir unchallenged at the very front. His teammate Floris Vaez, he's had to back out of his lap because he has invalidated. Bensabo Konyi, he is just in the first sector of his, but he is not pushing very hard on this one, I don't think. So let's see, who else is on a flying lap right now? Coming up towards the line, Atte Kauppinen, he's heading back into the pit lane. Glar, he's just starting. He yet to bring a lap to get his Pablo Glar. He is really a rough time of air in qualifying section.
Yeah, apologies for the technical difficulties there. We seem to have some form of lag there. Apologies for that. I'm going to just take over commentary a little bit for now, as hopefully Aladar can somehow find maybe the issue. I would assume it is on his end, hopefully, because if it's on mine, I can't do much about it. As we see here, Janakinji right now, where is he on track? That is Brooklands and Luffield now. He is in the second sector of his lap. He's up in P7 right now. That is a pretty strong result for him. His teammate Ulaş Özyildirim down in 17th, so he's struggling a bit more, and he's in the pit lane. The question is, for all those cars in the pit lane, will they even be able... Oh, as Akinji runs very wide there. Will the drivers even be able to make it out of the pit lane again? Or is that it for them? As De Capua is on an outlap right now, so he is about to... Well, not about to start, but he will soon start another lap. Surprisingly, let's look at that. Danny Berezne down in 12th. 7/10 down on Opmer, but yeah, you say it, not for long. He is on a lap right now, has only about 3 more corners to go. Vale and Club, and thankfully, Aladar, I can report you are sounding wonderfully once again. No more lagging going on, and it is P2 for Danny Berezne there. Wow, 600ths behind Opmer. Once again, those two just dominating. It's very close up front, but yeah, those two, they're just one slight step above everyone else. It's just, it's a, how do you say that? It's a line that draws itself throughout the whole event so far, and honestly, throughout the whole F1 2020 game cycle. Jan Opmer and Danny Berezne are not to be trifled with.
Absolutely, two very, very quick drivers at the top of their game right now. Jan Opmer, the reigning F1 esports champion, of course, and the reigning ORL champion, let's not forget. But Danny Berezne, an absolute hot shoe in that Alfa Romeo. Sorry about my technical difficulties, just a couple of internet issues for me, but hopefully they won't rear their ugly heads again, as the drivers are now heading back out onto the pits. They've got a bit of time left, 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining in the session, so everyone still in the pits can still get back out there to start a final attempt at least. Zabo Konyi, he's entering the final sector of the lap right now for Team Hungary, almost loses the car under traction through Club and doesn't manage to improve, loses up by 0.02 of a second to his own previous best lap time. But the Hungarians should be feeling all right now, starting 2nd and 9th as things stand. But there's still plenty of times left to be set. Let's see, is Berezne going again? No, he's backed out of this lap, so he's waiting to push again on the next one.
Yeah, he's not going into the pit lane, so he's got one more run to his name, one more run that he can attempt, and he's gonna try and make the most of it. A lot of cars now on outlaps. We have 11 that haven't started their final lap yet, and probably more than that, as we see Danny Berezne just started his now. That's exactly not the camera that I want. Let's actually go on board with him instead, as Danny Berezne now through the first sector. It looks good. Again, it looks slow, but it really isn't. It's just the conditions that make it look slow. But this is quick. He almost loses it there. Gets a little bit of a twitch onto the Wellington straight. Now through Brooklands. Keeps it neat and tidy there. Now through Luffield. That's a tricky corner in the dry at the best of times. In the wet, even more so, as he takes it in 4th gear, gets a bit of a twitch on, immediately short shifts to 5th, and that may have saved the car there. Now through Corps, has to lift. It doesn't go flat out in the rain. And let's see, through, Longe, meanwhile goes P1, 33-0.
Yeah, Danny Berezne didn't manage to improve in the first sector, but let's see what he gets at the end of this second sector as he rounds Chapel and heads on to the back straight. He is improving now. 1.5 tenths of a second is what he has found in the middle sector, and that might be enough actually to move him ahead of Longe at least, as long as he keeps that pace up in this third and final sector of the lap. Heading towards Vale now, one of 2 final challenges here. Heavy braking using as much curb as possible without touching the red sausage on the inside. Same for Vale. Getting on the curb a little bit under throttle will not help his traction. And across the line, it doesn't matter because he's into the 32s to take provisional pole position away. But here comes Jarno Opmeer further behind, and this lap looks incredibly rapid. The Dutchman is on track to knock Berezne off the top spot. Let's see if he can manage it. The perennial rivals, which will it be? It's Jarno Opmeer who takes top spot away. Josh Idowu's out there. He's pushing.
Moreno's
he's down
second.
off sector 1.
Decapua second. Everyone's coming in now to set another lap time. Longe is still a bit away. Comonyi in 5th. Let's look. Where's Idawu right now? He's getting onto the hanger straight. Everyone is improving massively.
Boreman's coming through. There goes Vyers. He doesn't manage to improve better than 15th. Disappointing for the Dutch team, but Boreman across the line, only 7th for him. He'll be unhappy with that one. It's up to his teammate Josh Idowu to try and do a little bit better. Prajic, he's only managed 10th for Team Poland, outshone by his young teammate in the form of Kamil Komoń. And Daniele Hedaz just put himself up into 9th as well. DiCaprio getting the better of him. Let's see Idowu across the line, and he's up into 5th. That's a bit better than for the rest of the world with 5th and 8th. And with that, it's only Nicolas Longe left to go, and he has invalidated. So we have our grid for the 3rd race of the day at Silverstone.
Yeah, and it is Jarno Opmeer on pole position once again with the upper hand here. Decapua in 2nd. Generally a pretty good result there for the Italians. P2 and P10 with Daniela Haddad. The Spaniards, Dani Moreno in 3rd, Alvaro Carreton in 9th. Hungarians, Dani Berezne 4th, Sabukonyi in 12th. Rest of the world, very consistent there. Josh Ida with 5, Barry Borman 8. For Poland as well, pretty consistent. Kamil Komoń in 6th and Tomasz Paradzic in 11th. And then for France, we have Longe in 7th, but Donoso all the way down in 19th. That is nothing they're going to be happy about whatsoever. Looking at the life standings once again, we have, let me just quickly scroll up so I can find them. If I can find, there they are, fantastic. So we have Hungary at 52 with a pretty decent chance right now to leave the first of 6 events as the championship leaders. Spain also with a pretty good chance. They're sitting at 45. The world team, the rest of the world team, Borman and Idawu tonight at 37. Italy at 34. With the Capua that high up, they may have a chance to climb some spots. Maybe not to the very top, but certainly a bit higher. Europe at 33, Finland 32. The Netherlands only at 26 after a horrible Dutch Grand Prix. Poland at 18, France 16, and then Turkey down in last with 14 points so far. So it's getting very, very interesting here. The drivers are loading into the session. Let's look at the tires. It is clear, it is dry, so everyone gets to choose freely. Well, what do they choose? I see a lot of medium.
Ooh.
I see 3 drivers on softs and the rest on mediums. That is daring from Opmeer, Decapua, and Paradzic.
Jarno Opmeer goes the other way. He goes onto the soft tires. Everyone else, pretty much, with the exception of Decapua alongside him on the front row, and Tomek Paradzic, are on to those mediums instead. It is the contra strategy to start on these soft tires here today by the look of things. And Jarno Opmeer has rolled the dice in that regard. Dani Moreno, Dani Berezne, 3rd and 4th on the grid for Spain and Hungary respectively. They are the leaders of the medium tire runners, and you've got to imagine that that will have to be the favored strategy here, judging by how many drivers have gone in that direction.
Yeah, just a quick note on the lifespan for those tires. The soft alone lasts 13 laps. Yes, you heard that right. You could, if you were allowed, run this whole race on the soft tires. Obviously, the drivers are not allowed to. They have to make 1 mandatory pit stop and change to a different compound. But technically, that's how durable these tires are around here. They don't even have to think about the tires. They could pit on lap 1 and go the rest of the way if they wanted to. And I wouldn't be surprised, I gotta be honest, if we do see some drivers without front wing damage on a scheduled lap 1 pit stop.
Maybe that's the idea for DiCaprio and Otmir. Maybe it's
Possibly.
the idea for almost the entire rest of the field. We don't know yet, and we're going to find out in just a few minutes' time here. As Jarno Otmir is lining up at the front of the grid, we'll wait for the rest of them to get alongside as well. But the Dutch team need a big result. They need a win from Jarno Otmir in this one, because that result at their home Grand Prix at Zandvoort was a disaster after the contact between Otmir and Boromand that saw Otmir finishing that race in stone dead last. The drivers are now on the grid, and Otmir is back where he belongs, up in first, with DiCaprio on his left in P2. The lights come on, they go out, and we are underway here in Silverstone for the ORL and FuturEsports Nations Cup, and it looks like a good start there for Otmir. He has been able to lead from the front. DiCaprio close behind in second, and then that's Berejne, who is in third right now. Someone coming around is outside. That's going to be Danny Moreno. These two started alongside each other, and they're still alongside each other as we head through the loop. Otmir leads from DiCaprio. Moreno in third. He's just been able to push Berejne back down into fourth there. There's some action further back with cars all over the road, but at the front, it's all calm. It's Otmir from DiCaprio from Moreno.
Yeah, a couple moves further down, the highest driver to have gained or lost a place is Kamil Kamoni in fifth. He started sixth, got a position on Josh Idabu immediately, and he is running very close to the back of Danny Berezne, who's already struggling a bit to hold up with his namesake Danny Moreno there. They're struggling, or he's struggling to keep up with the top three here. Maybe that is because of the medium tire, but then again, Danny Moreno is also on the medium, and he is pretty close there. Well, not very close, but pretty close. Yeah, there's Longe.
Longe, actually, it's Adowu now who's going for the move on Kamoni instead, but he can't quite get alongside in time. And it was very, very close down the back straight there. Now Porajic, he's up the inside of Barry Boromand, and he almost goes into Longe as well. Porajic on these soft tires wants to try and make the strategy work for him. But 5 drivers already into the pits, including Danny Moreno from P3 already wanting to get rid of these medium tires.
Yeah, it is a viable strategy at this point. You're immediately getting onto the soft, and you have a 1-lap advantage over everyone else who started on the softs, that being Otmir and DiCaprio, as well as Porajic. But you also have a much bigger advantage over everyone who started on the mediums right now.
Absolutely, but speaking of advantages, Jarno Otmir has one over the rest of the field, insofar as he is leading the way with Alessio DiCaprio sticking with him. I mentioned at the top of the day that Alessio DiCaprio, when he's on his day, when he has his pace about him, when he doesn't make mistakes, he is every bit as fast as the very quickest guys in F1 esports. And look at him hounding Jarno Otmir at the very front right now. And then look at the gap between themselves and Danny Berezne. Admittedly, the gap would look less if Danny Moreno was still there. But these two do seem to be in a bit of a world of their own right now with those soft tires relative to the mediums of the chasing pack.
Yeah, we see there's a bit going on in the background as well. I think we're going to have to cut to that. There's a massive train there right now. The only gap that's why more cars coming into the pit lane. Lap 2 now. That's Longe, Borman, Porajic, and Sabokonyi all coming in, and more. Kaupinen, Oz Yildirim all into the pit lane. So we have had half the field, more than half the field, in fact. 11 drivers already pitting within the first 2 laps of the race.
Yeah, incredible stuff here. Everyone wanting to get on a set of tires to drive them to the end. Porajic, she's been held in the pit lane pretty severely there. And that's a disaster for Team Poland with the field as packed as tightly as it is. And that start on these soft tires. He's on mediums to the end. Everyone around him is on softs to the end. He's going to have a rough couple of laps once he comes out of the pit lane as well. And he is going to be fuming in that cockpit, having been held up in the pit lane by multiple cars driving on past. Danny Moreno is still leading of those who have pitted. He's built a significant gap to Longe, who actually pushes Vallejo wide there. Now Vallejo and Boromand, they're fighting through turn 4, but Boromand is able to drive around the outside of the Spaniard driving for Team Europe. And as a result, Boromand is in 12th, Vallejo 13th. Haddad all over his rear end in 14th, sending it into Brooklands right now. And he gets alongside, justifies the space. He has the outside line now for the long right-hander of Luffield. He'll get the power down on the exit. He'll get a better run. Deploying the overtake mode already. Both of them are. They don't want to give each other an inch right now. And the inside for Cops could make all the difference here, as it's Vallejo who has that, and he will push the racing point of Daniele Haddad wide. They're not done yet, but it's impossible to go side by side through Maggots and Beckett's, and Haddad backs out of it in the end.
Yeah, strong defense there from Vallejo, pushing Haddad off a little bit, but he had the upper hand there. He was significantly in front, and as such, he used that to his advantage there as more cars coming into the pit lane. I'm going to tell you this right now, with the issues that we have seen with cars being held up in the pit lane, I think Otmar and Berezny, once again, this is the one step that they are ahead of everyone else. Sometimes it's not in the outright pace, sometimes it's in the mind. It's in thinking about, hey, how can I avoid getting held up? How can I avoid losing time as much as possible? They're staying out for another lap. Otmar, De Capua, Berezny, and Comoni are the only 4 drivers still out there. And if they were to pit now, they would all be in front of Danny Moreno, as you lose around 25.5 seconds in the pit lane. But even Camille Comoni is over 26 ahead of Danny Moreno. So those 4 are not just the top 4, they are the net top 4. Even if they pit now, they would still be in the top 4 positions most likely. And Otmar still not wanting to pit. Berezny and Comoni now pull the trigger, so it leaves 2 cars out on track in Otmar and De Capua, and that should do well for Berezny. Now the undercut is powerful because those tires are used now. The undercut isn't really powerful if you pit lap 1. A lot of drivers do. A lot of drivers think, oh yeah, lap 1, I'll just have the undercut and go to the end. Not necessarily, because the other tires aren't worn yet. They're only 1 lap old either. So it doesn't really help that much. And it's much better to pit now when the soft tires for Otmar and De Capua are getting to the point where they're losing a bit of pace. And here is Berezny now coming out of the pit lane. It's getting close with Moreno. Actually, I think Moreno might be past, but he's the only one. So they did lose 1 position there. Bit surprising, but not any more than that. And Berezny should have a massive advantage now over Moreno in terms of pace on these tires to catch back up.
Yeah, Comoni's come out of the pits looking pretty good as well, behind Longue right now, but ahead of Josh Idowu, who I think he must have got held in his pit stop a lap ago now, a little bit at least, because he has fallen behind his teammate Bardi Boroman.
Oh,
Meanwhile, at the very front, here comes Alessio Di Capua, looking up the inside of Jarno Otmar, and there's no battle to be joined there. Jarno Otmar simply cannot do anything to keep the Italian at bay, and Alessio Di Capua moves into the lead of this race, and I tell you what, he's got more left in his battery charge than Jarno Otmar. That's one of the first times I've ever seen Jarno Otmar getting passed by another driver without Jarno having a huge amount left in the tank in terms of his overtake percentage. It looks like Di Capua just has the pace right now. He has the upper hand ever so slightly, but right now it's going to be very, very close between these 2 to the end.
Yeah, and they're still not pitting. This is getting interesting now. At this point, I think Moreno and Berezny and possibly even Longue have a bit of an advantage here over those 2. The gaps currently say otherwise. Maybe they're just that quick that they can, even on these tires, make it work quite well. Remember, I said earlier, around 13 laps is the lifespan of the soft, so they do not wear out whatsoever here. They will maximum, if they pit, let's say, lap 7, these tires will maximum be at around 35 to 40%, which is absolutely no tire wear. That's where they start to fall off a little bit, but not really. So playing a little bit of a longer game here for De Capua and Otmar, I think, is the right call. The overcut might actually work for once.
This is fascinating what Di Capua is doing right now. As soon as he got past Otmar, he just dumped all of his overtake ERS. He just got rid of it all to try and build enough of a gap to Otmar to guarantee staying ahead when he came out of the pit lane. He almost managed to build a whole second to Jarno Otmar there as they both now head into the pit lane. And the saving grace for them in this race right now is that Moreno is not fast at this portion of the race. The last lap around, as Di Capua and Otmar are now in the pits, the last lap around they were in the low 126s. Moreno was on a 26.5, so this is really helping those guys out right now. as Longue was the fastest car on track before he got into this train behind Danny Moreno, and now he's stuck at the same pace as the Spaniard. So let's see where DiCaprio and Otmir come out relative to the rest of the field. It's going to be quite close on the exit here. Moreno might be able to get them, but it's not going to be by a whole lot as he rounds turn one. You can see them on the right-hand side. Alessio DiCaprio maintains the lead. Jarno Otmir, though, he's shuffled down into fourth, maybe even to fifth, as there is Longue close behind as well, but he doesn't allow the Frenchman through. Doesn't leave the door open one jot for the Renault driver, but DiCaprio maintains the race lead despite pitting so much later, but he is on mediums. The cars behind him are on softs. It's not over yet.
Yeah, it's not over yet. Absolutely. The difference between these two sets of compounds in fresh condition is only half a second though, and with the soft runners having pitted significantly earlier, we're talking 3-4 laps in the case of Moreno, that might be completely negated. So I don't think there's going to be that much of a difference. I don't think the medium runners, DiCaprio and Otmir, are going to be sitting ducks whatsoever. But that being said, it's quite easy to overtake around here. We got massive DRS straights here down the Hangar Straight for one. You have one down the Wellington Straight as well, and Moreno is looking, but he thinks otherwise for now. It's beneficial to attempt the overtake on the final lap. Just be patient, be the second car in line, and then on the final lap, we've seen this in esports time and time again, and I think we'll see it here as well. There's going to be a bit of a calm right now, and then on the final lap, Moreno is going to try to dump all of his battery charge, all of his deployment, and try to get the overtake done.
Right now, the front two have about 50% each in terms of their ERS percentages, while Berezne and Otmir behind, they're both at 90%. So the cars in third and fourth have the most resource available to them to deploy through the remainder of this race compared to the cars ahead. But of course, DiCaprio and Moreno, their saving grace is that they have track position on these other guys. And also, thinking back to F1 Esports, as you mentioned, you see moves on the last lap sometimes. I seem to remember a certain Danny Moreno picking up his maiden podium at this circuit in F1 Esports, unless I'm very much mistaken. So evidently a track he goes well at, and he is still going strong there in P2. His lack of pace a couple of laps after he came out of the pits did help Alessio DiCaprio to maintain the lead, and it might still be holding up Danny Berezne in third. Berezne's not going to find it easy to dispatch the Spaniard, though, when Moreno has DRS on DiCaprio, but now he's going for the move to try and break that as he goes up the inside of Stowe, and Danny Moreno takes the race lead. Alessio DiCaprio couldn't fight it back around the outside, thinks about the inside line for Vale, but ducks back into the racing line, and Moreno is in the lead for Team Spain. DiCaprio for Italy down into second, Berezne for Hungary in third, and Otmir, the F1 Esports champion for the Team Netherlands, is in fourth.
And Danny Moreno had to make that move rather quickly, and DiCaprio is still putting him under a bit of pressure there. Very, very close indeed. And there goes Otmir on Berezne down the inside. Oh, is he going to get the move there? That's the worst camera we could have. No, he doesn't. Berezne keeps third right now. But you see Otmir wants that move. However, I'm going to say right now, oh, everyone's battling. Look at this. Everyone is battling right now.
Oh,
and there is Otmir down the inside. That's an unusual place, but it's a good place. I always enjoy, whenever I race, I always enjoy that place, Luffield right there, because you want to usually take a wider line to set yourself up for this massively long acceleration zone from Luffield through Copse all the way here to Maggots and Beckett's. And shooting up the inside allows you to throw a surprise attack on the car in front, and Otmir did that to perfection right there. Up to third he goes.
What a move that was from Jarno Otmir. Alessio DiCaprio has a look at Moreno, but he's not close enough to make the move further back. The rest of the world drivers, Idowu and Burman, have switched positions. I assume that was a tactical decision to allow Josh Idowu, the Welshman, ahead of Bari Burman. As they're battling further down between Vyers and Porajic, and Echana Kinchi has just gone flying off the road there into Vale, breaking too late and making contact as he tried to come back on the track, made contact with Nalkarin, and that sent him into Zabo Konyi. I think Zabo Konyi will have escaped without damage there, but it's a disaster for Team Turkey, who find themselves in 18th and 20th. Team Finland 15th and 19th. It's not a great race for either of them, but further up, Berezne and Longuet are battling now as well. The Frenchman trying to get past the Hungarian Danny Berezne. He's struggling in this phase of the race. He has much more left in the tank relative to Nicolas Longuet, and Camille Comogny is also maybe involved in this as well. There's Longuet to the side of Berezne. It's so late from the Frenchman, and they do make contact, but they're still battling all the way around Luffield as well. Berezne gets his foot on the throttle better, and this is going to open the door for the Polish driver. Here comes Camille Comon, and he's up into 5th. Nicolas Longuet falling down into 6th. Josh Yadowu is the next one behind him right now, but he thought he was going to get Berezne, and instead he's been hung out to dry, and Longuet loses a position to Camille Comogny, who is doing a fantastic job in a field of F1 esports drivers everywhere he looks. He is running in 5th. What an amazing drive from the pole right now.
This is why you have to pick your battles wisely. You can't just send it up the inside whenever you feel like it. Because
Longuet, he almost lost it there on the exit of Stowe, and this is going to allow Yadowu potentially 3 breaks later, though, does Nicolas Longuet, and holding him back. Yadowu goes for the switchback through club, and he gets such better traction compared to the Renault, and the McLaren moves up into 6th. Josh Yadowu taking that position like a shark in the water. As soon as he saw weakness from Longuet, he was right on it.
yeah, and there goes Boromand as well down the inside of Longuet. Longuet spins! Longuet spins!
Oh, he's into Boromand!
Oh,
Disaster
my.
once again for Barry Boromand. He's involved in another incident, but it was Longuet who spun. It's allowed Carreton through and up into 7th for Team Spain. Pablo Joglar somewhere has picked up a 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits, but he is down in 19th right now, so not too much concern there. Danny Moreno still leads the way. We're on lap 11 of 13, and there's plenty more action still to come.
Yeah, and even more so if you consider that at this point the medium tires are the better tires. Remember, only half a second the difference between the mediums and the softs, but with the mediums being as fresh as they are, where they're probably not even at 20% right now in terms of tire wear. Maybe they're just getting there right now. They are in the shape of their life, of their tire life, that is, whereas the softs already passed 40%. They're starting to fall off a little bit here. And so Di Capua and Otmar, they may have the perfect opportunity here in the final 2 laps of this race to make the overtake happen on Moreno. It's going to get exciting. It's going to be interesting to watch how Moreno is going to plan to defend this oncoming attack from Team Italy and Team Netherlands.
Yeah, and I think Di Capua's playing the mind games a bit with Moreno now. He could have overtaken him that lap. He's not doing it. He wants to overtake him on the final lap, or at least the penultimate lap, and he might be going for it here as he's dumping some of the overtake on the way down to Brooklyn. See, this is his chosen overtaking opportunity, and he's just about alongside, but Moreno breaks so much later and holds it around the outside. Wall of death from Danny Moreno, keeping Alessio Di Capua at bay. They still have plenty of ERS left to play with. Same for Jarno Otmar in 3rd, and he'll want them to keep battling because every time they go side by side, an opportunity arises for the Dutchman. Sitting in 3rd for the time being, Berezne, I was about to say he's falling adrift. He's only a quarter of a second behind them right now as Di Capua almost pulling out alongside Moreno there. This is going to be absolutely frenetic as they head through Maggots and Beckett's. Look how close Di Capua is to that rear wing of Danny Moreno. He's going for it once again. He's using the overtake here, but Moreno has plenty of his own battery charge to fight back with. Will Di Capua get alongside? He will just about force Moreno to go defensive, but through Stowe you can do that and get away with it. Moreno holds the position. He'll defend into Vale. He'll think about it. He goes back to the racing line, and Di Capua still cannot find a way through. Danny Moreno is leading as we're entering the final lap of this race. Otmar in 3rd. He wants to try and take advantage, but can he do it?
Now we're going to find out how much of Jarno Trulli is in Danny Moreno.
It might not be enough as there's contact with Di Capua, but he holds it around the outside. Beautiful defense once again from Danny Moreno. Di Capua tried to catch him off guard, and Otmar almost went 3 wide with them there into Village. But it is Moreno leading the way, and look at the gap he's been able to pull from Di Capua as well as a result of Di Capua's failed overtaking move. Di Capua closes it right back in down the Wellington straight there, and the battle will continue. There's one more chance for Alessio Di Capua to try and steal this one away from Danny Moreno. And Danny Moreno will be feeling good about his chances, but he knows that racing point is going to be so quick in his rear mirrors right now.
Yeah, I think there might be one chance and a half obviously into Stowe on the DRS straight, but if you can't complete it there, you still have half a chance into Vale. That is the heavier braking zone of the two, and sending up the inside there might just work. So it's not over, even if we don't get a move here on Stowe. But De Capua round the outside. Moreno defending it with his life, and he keeps the inside, and he's still in front. Now the final chance, De Capua. Can he get it here? He's gonna try. He's gonna send it. Oh,
he's desperate.
He pushes him off the track.
Look at Opme's through, he's going through and he's taking it. Yeah, Berezne makes contact at the final corner and he can't take it, but it is Jaco Opmer who wins the third and final race of the day, taking 2 cars in the final corner. The F1 esports champion wins the race in Silverstone. Alessio Di Capua manages second, and Danny Moreno, he will be furious with Alessio, who pushed him wide in Vale. And as a result, Danny Moreno falls off of the podium from the lead down into 4th. It's good points for Team Spain regardless, but it could have been so much more if it wasn't for the incident with Alessio Di Capua.
There is a pretty common German saying, a German proverb. When 2 people argue, the third one celebrates. And I think this is very true right now. 2 people argued, and the third one in line, that was Jaco Opmer. 3 quarters to go. He is the one now celebrating. What a final lap. I have never seen that before. De Capua and Moreno coming together, tangling up in the final corner, and Opmer just sliding through on the inside, taking both of them and the victory. De Capua still getting a second place. So for him, nothing really changed. He was second before. He's still second. However, I think the stewards might have a look at that as he went a little bit deep there into the final corner. Not sure if there will be any action, but I think that will be sent to the stewards. Berezne in 3rd, Moreno in 4th, Comoni in 5th, Idaho 6th, Caraton 7, Boroman 8, Haddad 9, Vallejo 10. And yeah, we're going to wait for the standings. But I think the leading team, I think, was Hungary with 52. Looking at how they finished, I think they may have a good chance of keeping that, as no team really shining through with both drivers to a high degree.
I mean, it's a good result as well for Team Spain. 4th and 7th, I think they managed with Moreno and Caraton in the end. So it's going to be between them and Hungary at the very top. And I want to quickly say, the top 6 drivers in that race were within 3/4 of a second. That is one of the closest races I have ever seen. And what an incredible one it was.
Yeah, certainly. We are waiting for the standings, and we are also waiting for some of the drivers to join us for interviews, of course. So do not tune out. Do not turn off this stream. We will be right back after some more words from our sponsors.
What sound experience would you like today?
I'll have the fantasy pack.
Good choice. And could you make it a Cloud 2 wireless? On his way, sir.
Sounds amazing!
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
And welcome back, everybody, for the fourth time today. We have no more races to bring you, but we do have some interviews with the drivers who put their skills on show here today in what was an incredible day of action in the first ORL Nations Cup event proper. My name is Aladar, and joining me is Badgerman, of course, and we will be interviewing first Danny Berezne. Danny, congratulations on the win, of course, in the first race. And how was the event for you?
Yeah, it was a lot better than I expected, and I wasn't pessimistic at all. But for me, at least, I know some other drivers had some unlucky moments. Racing was clean and fair. I always had the chance in my hand. For an example, in Spa, I could live with it. In Britain, I was not good enough to win the race. And congratulations to Jarno, my former teammate, to do that. So our fight was nice, and it was very nice to see him overtake two people in the last two corners. That's quite crazy. From behind, I popped out some popcorns. And obviously, the reverse grid race offered some great action as well in Zandvoort. I would have been happier if it's another track where it's easier to overtake, because even from P3, it's not easy to get a great position at there. Not mentioning I started P15, but with some great strategy, both with my tires and ERS, and some luck on my side as Speedberry and Jarno, they collided with each other. I could gain some decent positions, and I think I finished P6 at the end of the day. All in all, these were great tracks for me. I really enjoyed the racing, and thank you for everyone who was involved, both in organizing and both in coming here and putting their skills at the absolute maximum. I loved it, and congratulations to all the other race winners as well.
Indeed. And a quick question then about those first two races in particular, because obviously you mentioned getting the win from pole in Spa. That's one thing. That's great. But the race that you had in Zandvoort, you mentioned it's such a hard track to overtake, and yet you went from 15th to 6th come the checkered flag. Which of those two races are you most happy with?
Obviously, I want to score 25 points, or I know our point scoring system is kind of different. So I want to score the maximum points all the time. So I am happier with Spa, obviously. But gaining 9 positions in a tricky circuit like that, against a field like that, it's also pretty impressive, and I really, really enjoyed it. I had some great fight, especially with Tino Nokarinen. We were side by side. I don't know if you catched it or not, for corners at the fastest section of the track, centimeters, millimeters from the gravel, from each other, and yet we didn't make contact, yet we didn't get any kind of damage from each other. So it was something I really, really enjoyed. And obviously, when you are in middle of the field, you always need to pay attention to your back, seeing how someone wants to attack you, and you also need to look in front to see what your opportunities are. So yeah, that's pretty crazy, and it was nice to get back after 5 months of vacation, basically, from esports, because I haven't been really doing any league racing, but yeah, I definitely miss this.
It's like you were never away, and I'll pass you on now to Badgerman as well, who has a couple more questions.
Yeah, first off, I mean, congratulations on what was a great event for you. First, I want to know, when you came out of the pit lane at Belgium and you saw Jana right behind you, were you lifting off the throttle at all?
Yeah, I lifted off. I was very scared to do that, because I was sure that he tries something as well, because we had a bit of a gap to P3, and I didn't want to brake test, obviously, because that's illegal. But I was happy to see that he is on my side and not behind me. So I tried my best to lift, and maybe eventually that position won the race. But to be honest, it's Spa. You can overtake anytime you want middle of the race, but you suffer from energy loss, that's for sure. So I'm not sure what would have happened if I stay P2 at the moment, and Jarno does the same to me. because ultimately I had 2 laps fresher tires, and it doesn't seem like much, but it's quite a lot in this 25% race. So yeah, no, I'm sure he was right on the limit, and in the middle sector, especially in the dirt area, it's pretty hard to follow the other one. And obviously, even if you have a lot of ERS, once you commit, you cannot really back out because you already lost too much energy.
Okay, what I've seen in the chat when you slightly let off the throttle there and then took the DRS and overtook him again, what I saw in the chat was a couple of people mentioning 200 IQ, so it certainly was a very good move indeed. The other question I have is, you started obviously P15 in Zandvoort, and it's a notoriously difficult track to overtake, but you finished, I think, P6 it was. Talk us through the overtakes. How difficult is it? How much planning does it take? How creative do you have to get?
So you have to get creative because there are not a lot of overtaking opportunities, and because Zandvoort doesn't offer so much braking points, it's really hard to gain energy. And if you use your ERS just once and deplete it to 10%, the maximum you can gain back in the entirety of the race, it's 10%, and you will finish at 20%. So you really need to decide whether you have a realistic opportunity or you just want to stay close. And ideally, you need to make overtakes in the corner, which is always a lot riskier, which is always harder. And I aimed to overtake as many people as I can in the corners. But for example, when I saw 2 cars battling, that's when I depleted most of my energy, because I knew that I can overtake 2 cars at once and I don't need to catch people one by one. So that's 100% more productivity there. And yeah, that's what's basically my plan. And to be honest, luck was on my side as well. I have to admit, sometimes there are things in racing which you can't control.
Yeah, that certainly is true. And then finally, I want to quickly look at the standings because we have them now in the chat, and Team Hungary is leading, but only by 3 points over Spain. So do you consider Spain to be your main rivals after this first event, or do you think maybe Italy, who are 12 points down, the rest of the world team that's 17 points down on you, or the Netherlands, who had quite a bit of bad luck, but are still only 22 points down on you, might be more of a challenger? Who do you think you're looking at the most?
I think all teams you mentioned is equally a big threat to us. It's only the first event out of 6.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be really hard to keep up and maintain this form. And to be honest, these were tracks that I really enjoyed. And I'm sure that there are tracks coming that others enjoy a lot more than I do. So there is still a lot of things to turn around.
All right. And once again, congratulations on the first event and on your performances. And thank you very much for the interview, Danny Berezny.
Thank you very much, too.
All right. And then we have another driver joining us here as well in the form of Floris Vyers. How are you doing, Floris?
Well, just a bit of calming down a bit after that hectic race.
Indeed, yeah. There was a lot of action going on at the very front, so we didn't get to see a whole lot of what was going on there. Of course, you participated in the race in Britain. How was it from your perspective?
The qualifying was good. In my opinion, I invalidated my lap, which actually put me in the top 10, which gave me a better starting position, of course. And well, that was a bit of a bummer, but nevertheless, I tried to keep on pushing and was 14th or 13th after the first lap, and then yeah, with a bit of argy-bargy with the Donoso in the first lap. He's saying that I'm not giving him space, but yeah, I'm entitled to keep my line, so yeah, for that. And then the race went on, and somehow I was P11 and fighting for P10, P9, which was all right. And then I got dive bombed by Donoso, and yeah, my race was ruined.
Yeah, so unfortunate ending, but a decent rate. You're making good progress up until that point, at least. And then thinking back to the standings, I believe the Netherlands currently sitting in P5 overall, with I believe 53 points. That puts you about roughly 20 points away from Hungary at the very top of the order. Obviously, it's only the first event, and there was some bad luck for yourself and bad luck for Timing Shooter as well, and in fact for Jana Watmir.
Yeah.
Are you happy? Are you unhappy with being P5 at the moment? And do you think that you can really challenge for the very top spot?
Yes, we have the team to challenge at the top spot. It's this event was unfortunate, but we have still 5 events left. I just want to clarify what happened to Simon. He suddenly got hacked during the race. So that I wanted to clarify that. And yeah, it's just basically bad luck all during this event. But Jana keeping us alive. So yeah, massive job. And next week we will be there even better prepared than we were this weekend. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and commiserations on the not so great race. But I can't wait to see you participating in the rest of the season. So thank you very much, Forrest.
Thank you very much, Steve.
All right, so I think with that, we'll be just about wrapping up now. So I think we'll be able to bring you some details of the next event, which will, of course, be same place, same time next Sunday. In fact, hold on, another driver has just arrived, so we've got a little bit more interviewing to do. So we'll quickly cut back to this right now. Hello, Ruben Vallejo.
Hello.
Hi. So, interesting day for yourself and for Team Europe. Going into this event, of course, having got through just in the qualifiers, whereabouts were you expecting to be?
Well, right now I think, to be honest, we are better than we expected, because obviously there are a lot of drivers better than us, because they are in esports. They are very quick drivers in this championship. So obviously at the end, to be 6 in the champ, that I think we are now, it's really quite good, because we didn't expect. We thought that we will be like a P8, P7 at the end, but yeah, very happy. And with that podium I did, better.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, how was the whole day from your perspective as well? I mean, of course, you were the common factor for Team Europe, participating in every single race with a different teammate each time. And generally, you were getting the big results for your team. So how was the day from your perspective?
Quite happy, because obviously we are not fighting, or we won't be fighting for the championship, because we don't have the level to do it. So at the end, all Team Europe wants to race and wants to be happy driving, and I have battles with the esports drivers as well. So yeah, very happy with the result as well. So yeah, I think the team can be proud of what we did today.
Indeed. And of course, your compatriots as well, the Spanish team, Team Spain, if you will, whereas you're, of course, participating for Team Europe, they're currently sitting second in the standings. And what do you think of them? And do you think that they can go all the way and take the win?
I think so. I mean, they have, comparing what the rivals did to Spain, I mean, they had bad luck in Spa Quali. Alessio touched Danny in the last corner as well, and he lost a couple of places. So he was going to win if the touch wasn't there. But yeah, I think the fight will be close, because the Netherlands, Hungary, and Spain, even rest of the world, have a lot of big drivers, and they are really quick. So yeah, the battle will be close to the end, to the championship.
All right, and thank you very, very much for coming to talk to us, Ruben, and congratulations on what has been a pretty solid day for Team Europe.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so now let's talk then about our next event. Event 2 will be coming up next weekend, and we can let you know exactly which tracks you can expect to see there. We already mentioned earlier that the Hungarian Grand Prix will be there, but there will also be the Azerbaijan race in Baku. That'll be the first race of the day. That'll be followed by the race at the Hungaroring, in Hungary, in Magyarország. And then you will have the race in China at Beijing to round out the day.
Yeah, very much looking forward to these. And in case you're wondering, well, we had Zandvoort as the reverse grid race the first time. Now we're getting the Hungaroring, 2 places where it's not that easy to overtake on. Certainly not as easy as it is around Belgium or Britain. That is by design to allow some of the teams that are maybe not performing that well in the first race to have a little bit of a chance in the second race and get some points this way to keep the championship a little bit closer and a little bit more exciting all the way to the end. And I think it's doing exactly that, looking at the live standings after the first event where we have just 3 points between Hungary and Spain at the top. Italy still in there, just 12 points behind Hungary. We have the rest of the world team with Barry Burman and Josh Idawu just 17 points behind. Even the Netherlands, with all the bad luck they had, where all 3 drivers had some kind of issue in at least one of the races, still only 22 points down. So everything to play for all of these teams. And this is just the second event that we're going to have next week. There's going to be another 4 of these. Ultimately, there will be 18 races at the end of which I think we can safely crown the fastest nation on F1 2020.
Absolutely, and I cannot wait to do so. I can't wait to see all the action. So make sure you join us next weekend for event number 2, starting off in Azerbaijan at Baku, around those city streets. But for now, we're going to have to bid you a farewell and good night. And thank you all very much for watching. You've been very, very supportive in the stream. And it's been an absolute pleasure putting on this broadcast for you. I have been Aladar, and alongside me has been Badgerman. And this has been the ORL and FuturEsportS Nations Cup by Mobiuz Gaming. We'll see you next week.